Welcome to the Story and Critique Show. Fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, dark comedy, horror, thriller, mystery, children's, and so much more. We're doing live story readings and live critiques for members in the community. With over 200 live stories read, I try to help writers make their story better. So submit now if you want feedback on your story. Welcome to episode 45. Hopefully I was right. Episode 45. Yes, 55. Episode 55. I'm Kauffman, daily writing streamer, fantasy author, and I have this belief that if you're stuck with your writing, just put a dragon on it. All right, so let's get into it. First off, how do you submit? Super easy. If you're wanting to submit your story for feedback, it's linked down in the YouTube description down below. Now, because this is the last episode of the season, we'll be clearing the queue and restarting fresh come January 1st. So, once you sign up January 1st, or if you're watching this on the replay, sign up, fill out the questionnaire, fill out the form, and let's get your story queued up. I don't care whether it's a rough draft or whether it's a final draft. I work with authors of all stages and all genres, because the one thing that they all have in common is that we gotta fix the characters, the plot, and the world building. All right, and then how do I critique? So whenever I receive a story, it is what I call a cold critique. I do not read the stories beforehand to keep it interesting for myself. I also have this critique process for those of you who are unfamiliar. Essentially, I break down the critique elements into the following variables. I break it down into character development, world building, dialogue, plot, or style. When we're trying to help a writer improve their story, we want to make the feedback as tangible as possible. So by breaking it down into, all right, this element works and this element doesn't, it makes it a little easier for the writer to be able to take that feedback and go make the improvements if they feel that the feedback matches their vision of the story. So important. And for those of you that I'm doing feedback, you know that if you see me highlighting as I'm going, that's just a note for me so that I can remember what I actually want to talk about when I get to the critique. And most importantly, if you're enjoying the story, join the conversation. If there's a part of the story that you really, really like, drop a comment. What was it? A piece of dialogue, a character moment, or something else? Or maybe there's a part that just didn't really make sense to you, or you feel like it could be improved. Let us know, why didn't it make sense? Or what did it make sense and why? If we're submitting our stories, we are assuming that all feedback is good feedback. Let me repeat that. When we are submitting our stories, we are assuming all feedback is good feedback as long as it's delivered in a way that is kind and clear. So if we're submitting our stories, we're wanting to help each other make the stories the very, very best we can make them. And we cannot improve the stories without feedback. All right, so we're going to be hopping right into it. And we're going to be starting off with a new writer in the community. I believe actually I've seen them around for some time now. So we're starting off with Blessed by Heaven's Fallen. This is a dark fantasy by author Arvioss. All right, I was like, make sure I say that correctly. All right, and got to make sure that I have it all set up on my screen. Bear with me, and we are going to be getting right into it. I know, I'm super excited. I always have fun whenever we're hopping into these stories. I didn't realize that I would have so much fun doing the story readings when I first started on the critique show. All right, and I think... All right, perfect. And I think I have this all set here. All right, and let's get this changed over, and we are all set. Okay, so I am all set on my end. Let's see just how we can help out Arvioss with their dark fantasy story. Blessed by Heaven's Fallen, a dark fantasy by author Arvioss. And this is a novel, and it's a first draft, and any feedback is good feedback. Chapter 1. At a distance, a tall building overlooking a vast campus came into view. It was the one and only Hermandry School of Truth and Thought, one of the first institutions to allow both women and men to study magic, and one that championed the rise of female mages. The sweet scent of spring flowers drifted through the air. A light, cool breeze passed by. The warmth of the day was a welcome relief after the long, bitter winter. Intricately patterned buildings stood proudly among trees blossoming in full bloom, though the trees seemed just a little too still, as if watching. Whitney, selected through the gifted scholarship program, stepped down from the public carriage. Her brown eyes widened in awe as she took in the sight of the enormous campus. I can't believe I made it to Hermandry. I'm still in disbelief, even after arriving here. She spoke softly to herself. Her golden hair caught the sunlight, her brilliant brown eyes filled with determination. And the touch of baby fat on her cheeks made her look even younger than 15. This was her first time so far from home. It was scary, no denying it. And not just because of the distance. Her father had protested fiercely, but her mother had somehow persuaded him. Before she left, he'd given her a barrage of warnings and demanded she contact him the moment she arrived. Honestly, Father, you worry too much. I'll be fine, she thought, smiling wryly. Her father was Maxwell Winterskern, head of the prestigious Winterskern Traders Union, one of the 3 largest merchant guilds in the Evernight Empire. He had packed her backpack and enchanted Endless One gifted by her elder brother with magical supplies and more contact scrolls than she'd ever need. Her hands clenched tightly around the bag straps. Her knuckles were pale with excitement. I'm really here. This is it. She was determined to make her mark at the academy and in the world. Still lost in her thoughts, she walked straight into the iron gate, slamming into it, face first. She stumbled back, rubbing her chin with a wince. Such a great start to my school year. Hopefully nobody saw that. If someone did, I'll never live it down. A stifled laugh echoed behind her. Whitney froze, dread picking the back of her neck. She turned around, already preparing her apology, only to see a familiar figure. Brunette hair, crimson eyes, and a mischievous smile. Malin, her best friend. What are you doing here? Whitney gasped, completely dumbfounded. Surprise, you airhead. Malin grinned. Whitney blinked, flustered. Malin just snickered. I got into the magical studies department. I kept it a secret to surprise you. You should have seen your face. You were about to drop to your knees and beg whoever saw you for mercy. Both girls came from noble houses. Since childhood, they were trained in proper etiquette and how to maintain their image. And Whitney? She was terrified of being labeled an airhead. She puffed her cheeks in playful frustration. You meanie, I thought I was doomed. The girl who couldn't even open a gate properly. I can already imagine the gossip. Malin burst into another fit of laughter. Wouldn't be wrong. Anyway, let's go. And try walking properly this time, you klutz. She pulled open the gate, grabbed Whitney's hand, and led her inside. It was still scary being this far from home. But now, she wasn't alone. Whitney suddenly understood her parents must have known Malin would be here. That was probably why her mother had won the argument with her father. As they walked together, the two chatted excitedly about their journeys and everything they had seen. Soon, they reached a large brown building. Several windows lined its walls, and above the entrance, a wooden sign read, Auditorium, First Year. It was time for orientation. Dozens of students were gathered already, boys and girls from all walks of life. The 2 girls made their way inside and took seats in the middle of the 3rd row. At Hermandry, there were several departments, but only 3 focused on magic. The Magical Studies Department, which Malin had joined, was dedicated to understanding magic's history and inner workings, its origins, secrets, and truths. The Magical Tools Department trained students in crafting enchanted artifact creations, like floating carriages, enchanted lanterns, and magic-fueled airships. And then there was the Practical Magic Department, where Whitney had been accepted. This was where real mages were forged. Combat training, spell invention, and magical theory came together to prepare students for the world. In truth, if one wanted to be a mage, practical magic was the path. Malin was a rare exception. Most who didn't join it either lacked magical prowess or had other callings. As the auditorium filled, the girls gossiped excitedly until the lights dimmed. A spotlight fell in the center of the stage. An older woman stepped into view, her presence commanding attention. She looked to be in her 40s, wore gold-trimmed spectacles, and carried an unmistakable aura of authority. I welcome you to Hermandry School of Truth and Thought. I am your dean, Sylar Mercury. You may call me Dean Mercury. Her voice rang clear across the entire hall, as though amplified by magic. From today, you are all students of Hermandry. I hope to see you shine and grow into proud representatives of this institution, and to see each of your faces again at graduation. Begin your studies immediately. The school offers the finest resources, but it is your effort that will determine your future. There was a slight edge to her words, one that many overlooked, but which carried the weight of something unspoken. After a few more words and instructions, Dean Mercury exited. The teachers began introducing themselves one by one. Whitney and Malin sat stunned, eyes wide in admiration. Did you see her? That was Madame Mercury, the first female Archmage in 3 generations, Whitney whispered. Of course I did. She's been my hero since I was 7. She became an Archmage at 36. That's insane. The girls fangirled quietly until orientation ended. Students were instructed to collect their identity cards from their respective departments and head to their dormitories. Classes would begin in 1 week. The first week was for exploration of the campus, the town, and each other. Whitney stepped out of the auditorium with Malin beside her, the sun still high above her boundary. This is real, she thought. I'm finally here. I'm going to become a real mage. In an unknown corner of the academy stood an old, forgotten building. All right, and it looks like that is a scene break, so we will end that there. End reading. All right, so wow. So starting off, I think with some of the things that really stood out to me, I can tell you did a really, really great job with really building out this world. I love this idea of going into this magical school. Of course, love the Harry Potter vibe over here. I'm like totally getting Harry Potter vibes. I love going to this whole new like magical school. It's the start of the first day. We got the friends. I think my favorite character so far, I think I like Malin the most. I feel like her personality is the most apparent. So I would say the world is really so far. I feel like there's some more opportunities to really expand on the world and ask myself, how is this a different type of magical school than others that we explore? But I feel like we're scratching the surface. And with it being a first draft, this is an excellent first dive into this world. I feel like we have our main character has some good, interesting backstory, but I feel like we could really explore and push further. So let's see just what we can get into it. I think this is an excellent first draft into a magical school, and I can tell just how much work you've put into it, and that is incredible. Something else that I also really love is you have some really cool moments of style. So you definitely use some really interesting descriptions, and I think it really helps bring out the text. Really, really great work. I think this is exactly where you should be, and let's see just what feedback we can give you. All right, Arvioss. So when I start looking, let's hop back into the beginning. So let's see what we can get. So when I start thinking about what really stands out to me, I would say that when I think about strengths, world building is a strength. So I would say world building is definitely one of the strengths here. And I would say I feel like the plot is probably in a decent place. I'm actually pretty good with how the story opens. I'd have to read a little bit more Gen A 2 to know for sure, but I think the plot, I have no issues with the plot right now. I think the biggest opportunities is the character development. Actually, I'd probably say the dialogue. I'd say it's a mix between dialogue and character development are the biggest opportunities right now. And then you have some really good moments with style. So the style is somewhere in between. All right. So when we come into here, we start off with this vast campus a vast magical campus. And of course, we get the description of it's a school for female and male mages. Perfect. So we're going to mage school. Perfect. Who doesn't want to be a mage? I want to be a mage. So I think I would definitely sign up for the school if I could. So that is absolutely, absolutely cool. So we're doing that. And then let's see the sweet scent of spring flowers. Yeah, so essentially what we're doing is you're doing world setup. And this actually isn't very long at all. I think I'm all right with this. So something that I would say as a hook, this as a first sentence isn't very interesting as a hook. I might consider starting the first sentence as something that has a little bit more of like a punch, we want to like a 1-2 punch, so you immediately pull the reader in. If we were just judging first sentences, I'm like, at a distance, a tall building overlooking a vast campus came into view. I was like, okay, but there's nothing that really makes that stand out. But what if you had Whitney, the main character, say something or like stumble and like Whitney like stumble into the gate right from the very first sentence? Oh my God, that school is incredible. Ugh, Whitney stumbled into the gate. And then you pull back. At a distance, she looked around, trying to catch herself. At a distance, a tall building overlooked a vast campus. Something to that effect. And I think that if you start off with some type of like a beat like that, that'll make your first page so much stronger. Because remember, if you've done the work to get your reader to read, to check out the cover and the blurb and they check out the book, you don't want to lose them on the first page. All right, and then the trees just seen. I like this foreshadowing, by the way. This is a fun, kind of like not spook, just like a fun like tonal element. Intricately patterned buildings stood proudly among trees, blossoming in full bloom. Though the trees seemed just a little too still, as if watching. I was like, okay, interesting. And I was like, okay, so the trees are magical. Oh, I kind of like that. So like the wildlife and the forest, kind of they all have their own vibe. I'm down for that. And then we get a little bit about Whitney. Now, the only thing, so this is something that I would call you out for, with her dialogue, who is she speaking to? Her brown eyes widened in awe. She took in the sight of the enormous campus. I can't believe I made it to Hermandry. I'm still in disbelief even after arriving here. So this is a mistake that I see new writers make sometimes. Essentially, what's happening is as the author, as the writer, you would want to get this piece of information to the reader. So like, okay, in my mind, like, okay, I'll just have them talk to myself. But if the reader's reading this, the first question the reader's going to ask himself is like, why are they talking to themselves? That doesn't make sense. Now, we all know as writers, we talk to ourselves all the time. But as a reader, that's not what they're thinking. The reader's like, okay, average person doesn't talk to themselves. That's weird. Now, if you create a character where they become known for talking to themselves, that can be different. But I wouldn't set that up on the very first moment. Yeah, I just want to set that up so you don't chance losing your reader. What I would recommend is having her either talking to somebody or maybe she's filming a video, right? It sounds like she's very much about like posterity and like her image. So maybe she's filming a video. Like that kind of seems like maybe that'd be something she could do. I don't know, some type of magic device maybe. She looks to the camera trying to brush herself off from the fall. I can't believe I made it to Hermandry. Blah, blah. And then that would be more in character. So I think that would be my recommendation to adjusting that. And then it would make sense if she's like looking, if she like sees herself on the camera and she's like, oh wait, I have to like adjust my appearance, make myself look pretty. And then you'd be able to get her appearance in a little bit more easier. And then we give the parents backstory just a little bit. Once again, same thing with the dialogue. And we're kind of getting her family's back. So I do like the backstory of the family. Yeah, I mean, I do like it. It's kind of interesting. So she's basically from a family of traders going to a mage school. I like this description, by the way. I think this is like a nice little touch when you do things like this. I always really want to call out when writers do descriptions, which I think work well. Her hands clenched tightly around the bag straps. Her knuckles were pale with excitement. Perfect. You could have easily just said she clenched her bag straps tightly. She was excited, right? But I think this is a nice way of doing it. Her knuckles were pale with excitement. Perfect. I can visualize that. She's grabbing her bag so tightly. I like that. All right. And then I think, so once again, like, depends on if you adjust the first part of the chapter, but I think her walking in the iron fence is still funny. I think that works. And then we get introduced to her friend, which I think is great. I like Malin. Give me a speech tag. I would start this off with an action tag, actually, because I mean, technically this was Malin, so I'm assuming this was Whitney. But just because it's still so early on in this dialogue, I would say have Whitney give her an action tag. Whitney brushed herself off as she got up. I got into the magical studies department. Blah 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 blah. And then we get the backstory of their friends. And I think the back and forth is kind of funny. I think this builds the rapport for the characters. I'm actually pretty good with the rapport that you're building between Whitney and Malin. I think that's interesting. Now, as I go through and as I finish up like this first beat, the thing I ask myself is, what do I know about our protagonist, Whitney? We know that she is from a family of traders. We know that she cares about her vanity, and this is her first day. This is like her first day going to mage school. I ask myself, does she have any quirks? Now, she kind of ran to the fence, so she's clumsy. I might play into the clumsiness a little bit because I think that kind of stands out. Um, I do think that's funny. I think other people, you should probably have her be seen by other people. I think that will add to that kind of, we'll call it a save the cat moment. So that way we feel bad for Whitney even more so. As Whitney looks on the ground as a group of girls pass by, covering their mouth and looking at her. I think that would do better for creating another obstacle, making us feel bad for the protagonist. So I would really, really play into that moment. And then Whitney looked around and she heard laughing from behind. Of course, it was her best friend. So I think play into that moment a little bit more. So we'll feel even more bad for Whitney, therefore making us care to follow Whitney's journey even more. Perfect. And then we get into the second scene, the second bit, the auditorium. I'm like, all right. So the first auditorium bit, this is definitely this is like the Dumbledore welcoming scene of the school. I don't think I had any complaints about this scene. It's kind of a setup, and then we have the professor coming out. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's anything crazy about this scene. I mean, it's very straightforward. Oh, the dean's name, by the way, Siler Mercury. Now, I mean, like you can have difficult to spell names like that's a thing. But just be aware if you do a lot of names like this, the reader is going to try to ask themselves like how do I spell that? Zalar, Sylar, Sylar. No, I have no clue. I think it's Salar. I mean, it's a female mage, so I would assume Salar, Zalar, Sylar. GB, not GBT. Autocorrect says it should be Sailor. uh, but Dean Mercury. I think that's good to call it Dean Mercury. And then basically we get our welcoming speech. And I think her welcoming speech overall, a little generic. I was like, okay, welcoming speech is a little generic. I mean, it's kind of like to be expected. I almost want her to do something interesting. Like I want Zyler, who what they're saying she was what like one of the youngest mage ever to be accepted. I wanted to like start and then like stop and then do like some type of like super cool magic thing, or to do some have the dean do something unexpected to impress the students. Have her do something unexpected because we're expecting something cool, and then she kind of gives like a generic speech, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, who cares? I was like, we've seen deans like this before, so have our a dean character do something unexpected that makes him stand out as a dean. So that way, we really kind of you want to build intrigue with the dean, who at core is a representative of the school, because we want to build an intrigue about the school, because as the reader we want to know, oh, what is the school like, and the dean is a representative of that. So build intrigue with your Dean Mercury. Right now the only thing I'm intrigued about is her name, which is a good start. And I do like that you give us the backstory. Okay, so this dean is a big deal. I think that was a good call. And then that basically brings us to the end of this the end of this reading. So once again, thank you so much, Arvioss, for submitting that. Really, really great work. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And then the next story that we have queued up on deck is a science fiction. We're going to be checking into Eli's story. Oh, prosper the work of our hands. But before we do, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. I've done well over 700 consecutive writing streams. If you're looking for a writing community, if you're looking for consistency, accountability, or just writers of all types of genres and all skill levels, you've come to the right place. We do workshops, writing sprints, fiction contests, and so much more. So make sure to tap that follow or subscribe button and you'll be alerted when we go live. All right, my friends. So before we hop into Eli's story, and for those of you just hopping in, welcome. This is the Story and Critique Show where I do live readings and live critiques for writers in the community. If you're wanting feedback on your story, submit now. Linked down in the YouTube description down below. Now, as I look back, let me go check the comments for that last story. What did y'all think of our mage story? I felt like that was a fun, really opening. Now I want to go to Hogwarts. I was like, now I want to go read Harry Potter. Whenever I read magic school stories like that, I'm like, yep, I just want a Harry Potter. Let's see. Eli, you said, I think the opening would be stronger if you change it to the campus instead of a campus. So that's going to be the subject of the next part. Yeah, and I know we had kind of talked about that opening. I think that would agree. So that way we make it a little bit more direct. Completely agree with that, Eli. Good recommendation. Hey, what's up, Brooklyn? You're like, LOL, in my renegade style, I would do a pop-in live stream and share the Scarecrow event. Ooh, I was like, there's a Scarecrow event? Ooh, what's the Scarecrow event? I was like, am I doing anything for Scarecrow during the WriteNow A Thon? Brooklyn's probably referencing the WriteNow A Thon. For anyone who doesn't know, at the end of the year, we are doing a non-stop all-weekend live stream to celebrate the art of writing. There's going to be workshops, panels, critiques, games, and we have well over 50 authors involved in this event. It's going to be an incredible event, and we're going to have so much fun putting it on together. Definitely make sure you come join us the weekend of December 27th and 28th. It's going to be epic. Let's see. And what else? Let's see. Yeah, and I could agree with that, Mary. I think we could get a little bit more action at specific moments. So I think that would definitely help the writing. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's once again, that's why you want to with school stories like that, because probably 90% of your readers who read your story are probably coming into it with like, yeah, I've read Harry Potter. How is it with when you do stories that are similar? We always ask ourselves, how do you give the reader something that is the same but different? So you want to give them certain things that feel like the magic world, like the dean coming into school and the girls being nervous about mage school. Like, yeah, those are cool, like Harry Potter like styles. But then we also want to do things that differentiate from a Harry Potter like universe, so that way the reader feels like it hasn't been done before. So it's trying to find like that balance between same and different. So good call out, Mary. Absolutely. Great call out. All right, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let's see. So perfect. So I think let's get into it. Let's get into our next one. I know I'm super excited to hop into Eli's. Let me queue up Eli's here. And we are hopping into, let's see, I want to say it's science fiction. This is definitely, definitely a little bit of a darker world than where we were just at. All right, and queuing everything up on my end. All right, and I am all ready. All right, so let's see. So for this one, let's help out Eli and see just what we can help him out with. So I know this is the beginning. Let me pull up the document. All right, so we've read a couple different other chapters from Eli's story, Baboon Pie and Jaguar Champagne. This is another chapter from the story. This is the introduction of one of our main characters. I believe we've read the other intro chapters for our other characters, which were really, really fun, by the way. So now we're getting the introduction of another character in the story. So let's see just how we can help out Eli. O Prosper, the Work of Our Hands, a science fiction by author Eli M. And let's see the feedback they're looking for. Let's see. So they're worried that the description of the girls when they're introduced may not be enough to create a lasting impression of the reader. All the others described for the minimal. Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like they're wanting to know how does the descriptions and how does the relationship feel between some of the female characters. So let's see just what we can do to help out Eli. And once again, novel of a first draft. All right, and we're getting to hop into a cult-like religious community, as we're going to see just what happens to Maxine. Okay. Maxine, grape, fig, thistle, thorn. Somewhere outside Texarkana, June 19th, 2028. Springtime would be gone in the morning, and with it, Maxine Ackerman's youth. Tomorrow was the solstice, and the summer and the Thunderclap Festival, and she would graduate from her training. She grinned a private grin and tried to convince herself that it wasn't pride welling up in her heart, but gratitude to God. May he strike me down. She waved her hand quickly in front of her chest as a kind of punctuation for her prayer, and glanced up at the sky as if to see the prayer on its way to its destination. The sun was high overhead, and she had to shield her eyes. It was the last day of spring, but the weather was decidedly summery, and the air hung around her thick and wet and close. She could feel sweat trickling down the small of her back under her yellow cotton tunic. She was 25 years old, long and lean, and sturdy for her size. She was the tallest girl she knew, 5 feet 10 inches, and she had the sort of surprising strength that came from a childhood spent bent over pulling weeds, or humping wheelbarrows of rocks from one end of the huge drain field to the other, or splitting wood till her hands bled from the blisters. Even in the muggy heat, the woods surrounding the Church of Christ and the Holy Tetragrammaton intentional community were teeming with activity. The air rang with 100 bird songs and the squawking of crows. Brush rustled and ruffled as squirrels and possums and raccoons went about their secret business under a leafy green shroud. Deep in the forest, somewhere she could hear the unmistakable machine gun hammering of a pileated woodpecker, and just knowing that such a beautiful creature was in earshot brought a huge smile to her face. She had light brown skin that the sun kissed with constellations of freckles here and there. Her thick black hair was only a few inches long on the top, a beautiful thicket of loose, springy ringlets with the sides buzzed short. Her eyes were the color of amber with the sun shining through it, a bewildering yellow-brown that commanded people's attention. She had a small nose with a dainty silver hoop through the left nostril, and a smile that lit up like a lightning bolt. She checked her watch. 1 o'clock. Time for the young ladies' Bible study group. She patted the canvas bag slung over her shoulder as a reminder that she had everything she needed. Her Bible, her notebook, some pens, and headed east down this dusty stone path that led to building A5, where the young ladies' group meetings were held. As she walked, she listened to the hammering sound of the woodpecker, but it was gone. Maybe he found something to eat. She grinned at the thought of the happy bird and hardly noticed that she'd walked right up to a small clump of girls. They were heading to the same place she was. Hey, Max. It was Carol Jean Studebaker, a short, plain-looking girl with big ears, sandy brown hair, and dull green eyes. She was 21 years old, and like Maxine, she'd been born on the compound. Standing around Carol Jean was Annabelle Hughes, a vivacious girl, a little younger than Carol Jean, with fiery crimson hair that fell in long, lazy tresses over her shoulders. Cheryl Duval, rail-thin with fine black hair that hung straight as an arrow and shrouded her pale skin and dark eyes, and Roxanne Prince. Roxanne was a blonde-haired girl with a pretty face and an upturned button nose. Afternoon, Carol Jean, Annabelle, Cheryl, Roxanne. She greeted each of them with a smile. They made room for her in their ranks, and each of them leaned in turn, and pressed her cheek against Maxine's, and made the sound of a kiss. Anyone seen Renee or Jennifer? Maxine asked. The others shook their heads. Haven't seen either of them this morning, Roxanne said. Maxine frowned. Renee and Jennifer Vanderklage were sisters, and Renee and Maxine were extremely close. She craned her neck and looked all around, but all she saw was a bunch of yellow cotton tunics. All members of the CCHT dressed in the same way, all except for the Prophet and Mr. Jeffries, and none of them belonged to Renee or Jennifer. Could be they're already over at A5, said Cheryl from behind her veil of hair. With that, she turned on her heel and led the way down the path to the modest red brick building. It was 1 floor and 2 rooms, a larger room for people to do whatever in, and a small kitchen off that. The compound was originally intended to be a prisoner of war camp for captured Yankee officers, but the war ended before it was all built. Maxine didn't know what the planned purpose of A5 was, but she doubted it was to host a Bible study for young ladies aged 18 to 25. She shuddered at the thought of being a young lady in a POW camp back in those days. She flashed her hand in front of her chest and kept walking, trying to think of more pleasant things. 2. It turned out Cheryl was right. Renee and Jennifer were already in the building when the rest of them got there, along with Sister Edna, a woman in her late 40s with graying frizzy hair and a long nose with a large wart on the end and a larger mole in the bridge near her left eye. And the youngest and smartest young lady of them all, Brutustina Baudreau. Jennifer and Brutustina got up from their chairs when the rest of the girls arrived and came to greet them at the entryway, but Renee kept her seat and looked like she was trying to see through the floor. Through it and down to somewhere dark and secret. She's been crying, Maxine realized when Renee looked up at her with swollen red eyes. The two of them had been friends for years. Renee's and Jennifer's parents, Arthur and Valentina, came to the church just before the first schism over the Brunel heresy, 2 years before Maxine was born. And they stayed through that, and the second schism a year later, over all the foolishness with Dutrow and the pool hall. They'd stayed through both of the seasons of testing, and so Arthur was named an alderman, and Valentina was put in charge of all feminine ministries. A few years later, Renee was born, and she and Maxine were fast friends growing up. What's the matter, Renee? She thought, and started to make her way toward her. Maxine, would you come here, please? It was Sister Edna. The older woman was sitting in a folding chair at the end of the room opposite the door. There was a too-tall desk in front of her, which gave the setting a somewhat scholastic undertone, and strewn across the desktop were sheets of notes and chicken scratch scribblings that Maxine assumed had some meaning to Sister Edna, even if they were indecipherable to anyone else. Coming, sister, she said, doing her best to mask her annoyance and feeling a deep pang of guilt for the resentment that flashed through her toward Sister Edna. May he strike me down, she whispered, and her hand squirmed in a tiny perfunctory spasm in front of her chest. She headed to the desk and stood next to Sister Edna, who remained seated, shuffling through her notes with a look of concern. Something wrong, sister? Hello, Max, the sister said without looking up. Yes. I seem to have gone and left my notes from last time at home. These. She picked up the pages from the desk. Are for the solstice. Oh, what a silly mistake. Do you have yours? She looked up at last from the desk. Right here. Maxine patted the burlap sack with a smile and pulled her notebook out. She flipped to the entry from yesterday and handed it to Sister Edna. The older woman looked well pleased and took the notebook with a warm smile. I knew I could count on you, Maxine. You're going to be an excellent instructor. She patted Maxine's arm affectionately. It won't be long now, will it? For the second time that day, Maxine had to convince herself that she didn't deserve to feel proud, that she ought to instead give the credit to God, and that her gratitude to him was its own reward. Thank you, sister. Oh, of course, Sister Edna said with a chuckle. The Sermon on the Mount. I swear, I'll be back to normal once the Thunderclap Festival is over with. And so much is left to be done. I don't mind telling you. I wish I could multiply loaves and fishes. It would be a load off my mind, it would. Thank you, Maxine. She flashed a big smile at Maxine and handed her notebook back to her, and Maxine headed over to sit next to Renee. All right, and we are going to end the reading there. All right, so really, really good start. Yeah, it looks like a tone that beat goes on for a little while. So awesome. Really, really great start. Wow, I feel like I was definitely introduced into a... It's interesting. We get introduced to this like religious order. We get foreshadowing through our main character. It's a lot of very like very, very subtle clues that something is wrong about this religious order, but you don't know what. I almost ask myself if there's if there should be some bigger foreshadowing elements to make it a little darker, but it's so early on, it's kind of hard to say. Kind of go back and forth. I think one of the things that you do an incredible job with, and once again, Eli, this is one of the things I love about your style. You have this way with description and with using the ways that you paint descriptions for characters and settings, which are done so immaculately well. I have to commend you on that because I think that is so, so incredible. And even from what I know about the world, I can tell, even just from reading this excerpt, just how much thought and intention has gone into every single element of this, from the world building, the characters, the dialogue, and the plot. So really, really great work. I think this is an excellent start to a story. Now, let's hop into it. By the way, if you're here in the live stream or you're watching in the replay, what did you think of it? Drop a comment. Was there something that stood out to you? Did you like Maxine's character? And once again, I know the big question Eli was asking us was, how does the relationships feel between Maxine and the other characters? So let's hop into it. I have a few thoughts on the character development side of it. So when I think about what worked out really well for this piece, Eli, once again, your style is, as always, one of my favorite elements. I love your style. I would say, plot so far feels good. I don't have any issues with plot. I think your world building is hands down the strongest. I think, and it's interesting because you do so many things well. I would say that you do pretty well in each of these areas: character development, world building, dialogue, plot, and style. And what really has to be fixed and revised is you got to cut back in a little of each of these areas. So you have a little bit of revision work in each area here, and I'll get into that. So I think the biggest opportunity for it right now is the character development. It's one of the things that is working the best for it, but it's also an opportunity. So right now, my biggest challenge with it is at this part of the story, and we're really, really early on. I know with your other chapters, Eli, I forgot where this will fall in the book itself, since this is going to be interspersed, I believe, with other characters, if I'm not mistaken. But I would say that right now, I think my biggest challenge with this is there's too many character setups and too many character introductions. Because we're so early on in the book, or because we're so early on in Maxine's story, the reader is still trying to get an understanding and an emotional connection with Maxine. Outside of Maxine, I think you introduce and do character setups for 8. I think you do 8 character setups within the course of like 10 to 15, within the course of about 10 pages, which is a lot. Now, each of the character setups is incredible. The way you do the character setups, beautiful. Each one, you do like the right thing. You give us a description. You kind of paint a picture. But the problem is because there's so many back to back, all of the characters start blending together. Outside of Maxine, I'm clear on who Maxine is as my protagonist. But then all the other characters were like, okay, I know there's other girl, and I want to know that they're all like have interesting descriptions. But there's just so many, I don't know who is who. There's a couple ways to go about this. I think because this is an opening chapter, either you do less characters, so you cut down on the number of characters that you focus on, right? So like in this first section, I want to say that you intro, I think 4 characters. I would say maybe only do set up for like 1 or 2 of them maybe, and then just have the other ones be like kind of named, like don't focus as much on them. So that way the ones speaking are the ones that we can kind of focus on. That way there's not so much character setup fatigue is what I would recommend. Let's see. And then what else? So I'll make these ones just a little bigger. Yeah, so that would be my recommendation. I think I understand the adults. We understand that the sister's character that she's speaking to, because she's an adult. But I think it's because all the other ones are girls. They kind of just blend together for me so far. I know there was the one friend that kind of stood out when Maxine goes to check on her, the one that was crying. I was like, okay, I thought that was well done. I would keep that part, but I think just the beginning I'd fix. So let's see. So let's get into it. Yeah, I see what you're saying about the characters there. Let's see. Yeah, so and I could tell, right? So this is actually a really good call. You said we got almost perfectly to when they were going to start talking a whole lot. Yep. So we could tell the next part. All the characters are probably going to start talking back and forth. It's going to be like a group conversation. Um, all the more reason that before we even get to the group conversation, the reader wants to have a solid point of who the important characters are without feeling overwhelmed by too many. So by the time we get to the conversation, we should know obviously Maxine, the best friend who's been crying, and then we got the sister. I think those are important, and then having one or two other standouts, I think would be very would be could be very critical. So that's good to know. And the thing is, they could all be there. It just I don't think you have to do a setup for each at that specific moment. So so I think that's how you could fix it. Yeah, and I think that could be it. Maybe as they're taking turns with the Bible, you could do setups. You could do setups for more of them. I ask, and this is the question I ask myself, Eli: is setting up all eight of the girls in this chapter, is it necessary? And I think that's what I'm going to challenge you with: is setting up all however many girls there are, because I think you did four setups outside of. I want to say that you've done six of the younger the girl setups. Are all of them necessary? So obviously Maxie and the friend are important, but are the others necessary right now? I would say focus on like one or two of the others in terms of big setups, and then do the other ones maybe like smaller and focus on them in a future chapter. Just so that way, because we're still so early on in this chapter, you want the reader to be able to start picking and choosing who they like and who they don't like. If this was farther in the book, it'd be different. They'd already have the context of Maxine. They'd already care about Maxine, but because they don't, the reader's still trying to orient themselves in who should they like and who shouldn't they like, and they don't have an emotional connection yet with Maxine. So I think that's it's for that reason specifically. But I have to say though, Eli, once again, one of the things I love about your descriptions. She grinned a private grin and tried to convince herself that it wasn't pride welling up in her heart, but gratitude to God. This is some excellent character development. I love when you do things like this. In the first paragraph, we already have a very interesting understanding of our protagonists understand of our protagonist relationship with religion and the religious figures. She feels like she should feel the thing, but she actually? You've created conflict in the first paragraph. This is really great work, my friend. Really great work. So and then the fact that she follows it up with dialogue is I absolutely loved. So Eli, very great opening. I think this opening was perfect for this chapter. And I think getting our introduction for Maxine was important. The only thing I was going to say with this description, all the things you're saying in here are good. I would split this paragraph. I'd split this up though. What happens if you do this as one sentence? You might lose the back end of it. And these are all great descriptions. I would make these separate sentences, or maybe use semicolon. Either use a semicolon, separate sentences, so that way you don't lose the back end of it, because this is all really interesting character development for her. And then we kind of get some world building with the church and where they're at. And it's once again, Eli, your descriptions are awesome. She had light brown skin that the sun kissed with constellations of freckles. I don't even think you need here and there. This is me being an editor for a moment. She had light brown skin that the sun kissed with constellations of freckles. Eli, that's like that's amazing. I love it. I love the descriptions you do, my friend. And it really speaks to your personal style. Because I think this is clear, right? When we can paint a picture with a description like that, that's a huge win. And then we kind of go into her full what does she look like. I think this all works. I mean, I think you paint a very, very straightforward picture of her, which is fine. And then we're going to Bible study group. We're kind of transitioning. Maybe found something to eat. She granted the happy bird. And then we get introduced to all the characters. So something that I was going to ask. So you do all of the character introductions in parentheses. Why? The question I ask myself is, why are you doing the character intros in parentheses? As a reader, that was the first thing I asked, is like, why are they in parentheses? Because then that means like, are they part of the story? Are they her inner thought? Well, you already did her inner thought interiority, so then why? It kind of took me out for a moment. I would advise against parentheses. Unless there's like a specific intention, and you did it for every character. You did it for every character that we were introduced to, aside from the main character. But I'm not quite sure what it was trying to accomplish. The same thing can be done with just making them their own sentences. So that would be my recommendation. Yep. And then I already told you what I thought about all the character intros. So I mean, even when I thought about this first part, I think the only character I really like remembered was Studebaker. And then the other ones were all like, yeah, I read their descriptions, but there's just too many. And you can still have the characters here. But I don't think you necessarily need to do a full description for each until they become important. And then they have the ones that speak. I'll have the ones that speak be like Carol Jean, like the first one that's introduced. Yeah, and I mean Eli, that's a good point. That's a good call out for the sci-fi. Because Mary, I don't know if you remember, we did Eli. We've done the first couple chapters of this book with Zekung and the motorbike. The first chapter is like extremely sci-fi-ish, so I'm not worried about the sci-fi element of this, because I want to say this is what, like chapter 3 or a couple chapters in the book or something like that. And then let's see, what do we get with that Turner Heel? And then we're going to the church. I think a lot of the world building you do with the church is fine. Well, I think we could probably shorten this last bit. I'm not sure how important the POW. It's kind of interesting, but I would say let's just get us to that next bit. I would say just shorten this last beat. Just interesting world building that I'm not sure is necessary or not. Yep. And then I think this opening beat with finding her friend, I think it's Renee, right? Is very important. Yeah, so I mean, once again, we now have Sister Edna. The Sister Edna intro is important. That's definitely an important one. And I wouldn't even introduce Sister Edna until she goes up and talks to her, right? Because when we open this, we want the focus to be on her searching for Renee. Let's focus on Renee. Yeah. So yeah, I would say focus on Renee because she's the bestie. We wanna get the idea of Renee. Okay. Yeah. So the POW camp element is foreshadowing. Okay, I could see what you're saying with that. Then you could probably keep the POW camp element. Then just shorten it. I would say more than anything. I mean, this is all character development and world building. I don't think we need the interiority here. I think it's already clear that Maxine wants to know what happens to her friend. I think it's obvious that she's going to go check in on her. And then we get interrupted by the sister. This is when we want the Sister Edna description. And I think the Sister Edna conversation is good. I think the reader's expecting like, oh, something bad's probably going to happen, but really it seems like the sister's just checking on her and commending her. This is me being an editor. You can have action tags in between dialogue. So you can have action tags in between dialogue, but you have to either start it or end it with a speech tag. So the only way this would work, yes, I seem to have gone and left my notes from last time at home. These, she said, picking up the pages from the desk are for the solstice, right? So you said you can have the action tag here, but you have to have a speech tag if you're going to cut up dialogue with, if you're going to intersperse dialogue with something. So if it's only an action tag, it doesn't work. So, and you could have the speech tag on the front end, or you could have it on the back end. There you go. That's your editing. That's the editing trick of the day. How to cut up dialogue with speech tags. I actually used to thought you could do it with action tags, but it has to be an action and a speech for it to work. All right, editor hat off. All right, what is a mistake? Do you have yours? And then, I think the rest of that is good. The little woman looked, and please, I know I could count on you. And then we're kind of getting a little bit of foreshadowing here, which I think is good. Yep. Okay. And then that was the end of the beat that we got to right before they all start talking with each other. So I think to increase foreshadowing, Eli, I would actually try to end the conversation on a mystery. I think this will build up tension a little bit more. You do the description here, and I might just adjust the sequence of the conversation. But I think if you end Maxine's conversation with the sister on a question or a mystery, I think it will build up a little bit more intrigue from the reader. This is good. This is kind of painting description, but I think intrigue will work better in this moment. Since we want to get as much foreshadowing and intrigue towards the characters. Do we trust the adult characters? Do we not trust them? Our main character already has a disconnect with the religious deity, and she also is thinking of this place as it used to be a POW camp. I'm like, all right, there's something up about this place, but we don't have any real examples yet. So I think give us a little bit more tension. Let's up the tension, especially since this is some type of cult. So that way the reader's questioning, even if it's very, very subtle. I would up the tension. So awesome. That's all that I got for you, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for submitting. That was absolutely a very, very fun read. And I feel like, yeah, so I'm just very excited about that. I'm actually really, really interested to see how the stakes are going to get worse for that character, because we saw how crazy the stakes were for some of the other characters in the other excerpts we read. And I know, right, with some of the plotting that's going to happen, I'm very curious to see how it plays out. And I can see that you're doing the setup and you're sprinkling like the initial seeds for it. So very, very great work. And hopefully we'll get to see some more excerpts from this piece in the future. Thanks again for submitting, Eli. And let's see. So who do we have next on deck? We're going to stick with the dark. We're going to be hopping into a dark comedy, absurd horror. We have next on deck a typical old fart. A dark comedy, absurdist horror by Marta Chowanska. All right, Marta. So I have your story on deck. This is going to be a dark one. We're going to see just how much fun we will have with this story, and we'll be starting that one next on deck. But if you're just hopping into the stream or you're watching on the replay, welcome. This is the story and critique stream where I read live stories and live critiques. I've done well over 200 stories. They're all cold readings. Our goal is to help writers improve their stories and make them better. So if you're wanting feedback on your story, submit now. The link is down in the YouTube description. Now, normally, stories get queued up for future streams. But because we are at the end of the year, we'll be refreshing the queue at the end of this stream, and we'll be starting it up fresh January 1st. So let's see just how many stories we can get in today. We're doing some excellent, excellent stories so far. And if you're hopped in late, you can always check out the replay. All right, awesome. How is everyone doing? By the way, if you're here in the stream, do you have the caffeine? What caffeine are you drinking, and how are you staying awake? How are you going to be getting through the weekend? I was like, I know that I needed I did an energy drink. Are you drinking coffee, caffeine, or are you just staying hydrated with water? Actually, I probably should be drinking water. Oh, man. By the way, I saw a couple of you hop in during that. Eli, I think you had some pretty good feedback. Yeah, and I could tell definitely you got some good insight and some good interest in the story, definitely for sure. Yeah, and then I know you had asked you, like, to be totally honest, I just don't want them to come off as props. It doesn't come off that way. We don't need to bog down that. Yeah, so I wouldn't say the characters come off as props. They just come. I feel like because there's too many, we just don't get context. We can't remember them so early on. Hey, what's up, Mask? Glad you were able to join us, my friend. I saw you hop in a little while ago. Eli, I totally missed what you're responding. I probably gave you some type of feedback. Just if you want to just refresh me on what I said, or you can shoot me an email. I was like, I don't know what you're responding to. Maybe this was my dialogue advice. Because I'm so used to doing stream of conscious. Welcome, Lay. So glad to have you joining us live. I know for me, like my favorite YouTubers, sometimes they stream at really weird times, and I get so bummed when I miss like the live streams that I really enjoy listening in on. So glad you're able to join us, my friend. Aw, I really appreciate that, Eli. You said, I super appreciate your feedback. It's always the kind that seems totally obvious when you say it. I can't believe how much work there is to do when I feel so good about a piece. Eli, I am right there with you. You guys all know I've been working on my dark fantasy novel, The Last Scarecrow, for almost 2 years now. And there's these chapters, I'm like, they're so incredible. They're so awesome. They're perfect. And then I've started getting feedback on some of them. I'm like, all right, yep, there's still opportunities. I'm not that awesome. But that's all part of the writing process, right? So when things are working and we start getting feedback, that just means we're doing certain things well, and we had to figure out how to revise and refine certain pieces. That's like such a normal part of the writing process. And a lot of the times we don't know that certain things don't work until they're either read aloud or they're read by others, which is why feedback is so important. And this isn't just to you, this is just writers in general. Never publish your book unless it's gone through some type of alpha or beta readers or an editor. So highly good call out. Courtney, like, going to make another cup of coffee here in a minute. All right, Courtney, so you're drinking back-to-back coffee. You probably got like the cup of the pot of coffee brewing over there. I used to do coffee. I feel like I've been doing more energy drinks these days. mask. You're like drinking water, soda water, so that way you still kind of get like the carbonation taste right there with you. Zencast, very, very healthy, my friend. I'm trying to keep up with all the water. Oh, man. All right, so let's get into the next one. And by the way, speaking of editing and speaking of writing services, before we hop into Marta's story, I'm doing a holiday writing discount right now, 60% off. So if you are needing editing on a part of your story or on your novel, or maybe you're needing an alpha read similar to what I do here on the critique show, or maybe you've been feeling very lost with your writing and you need some motivation and accountability for coaching. So sign up for, this is a holiday writing service discount that I am offering through the end of the year. If you want to learn more, all you have to do is go check out this form. This kind of walks through it. I'll drop it in the comments. If you want to learn more about the holiday writing discount that I'm offering, I know, we all know, guys, because I'm going through the same thing, that writing services are expensive. Hiring a writer or hiring an editor costs a lot of money. And then doing the cover design and doing all the different elements. So when I can try to figure out ways to make the process more affordable, that's what I really want to try to do, because I know it can be an expensive process at times. So highly recommend sign up for these services now. Once my schedule fills up for January, then I'll be closing it out. So sign up now. Currently still running, whether you're looking for editing, alpha reading, or coaching. All discounted. Highly, highly recommend. All right. And on that note, let's get into our next one. Let me cue up Marta's story. I'm super excited to hop into it. All right. And I think we got this here. Corey, like hot cocoa, it's snowing. Dang, Corey, I wish it was snowing over here. It's like nice summer day, and I want snow for snowboarding. I'm like, where's it? Corey, can we like trade? I'll trade you weather environments. You can have the sun, and I'll take the snow. Oh, man, it doesn't feel like holidays unless it's snowing. Aw, I appreciate you, Mass Toaster. Mass, you've been with us since the very beginning. Actually, okay, guys, I'm kind of curious. I have a question here. So there's something I'm dying to know right now. Who has been watching the Story and Critique show or some of our writing live streams since the early days of the WriteNow channel? Who has been watching our live streams before I rebranded to WriteNow? For those of you who don't know, the YouTube channel was originally called Kauffman's Corner. This was my original brand that I used before I was like, WriteNow makes more sense. But if you've been watching since the beginning, say I. Just type in I into the comments or say I or me. I am so curious. Do we have any OGs here? I'm very curious. Drop a comment. Let me know. It's always really interesting when I see writers who've been with us for a while, whether or not they like stick through all the months. They come in and they come out. I think that's part of the process. Yeah, Eli, like definitely since before the rebrand. I think we did one of your early pieces of Zikun. I think it was in one of the early critique shows. I think it was an early critique show, actually. Mass Toaster, been here about 2 years. Yeah, I'm like, guys, we're almost at we're over 700 consecutive streams. So I was like, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Oh, man. So definitely very fun. I was just curious. Like, I had to know who some of our OGs were over here. Okay. So, okay, so not very beginning, but I think I've since like 10 or 9. And then I feel like there's the next round of you who a lot of you guys joined on the back end of, I think last year, after we rebranded into WriteNow, around the time that we did our first fiction contest. Zencast 6 months ago. So we probably have a good batch of you guys from 2025. I was like, when did we start? 2024. Like already forgetting. Yeah, I was like, guys, we're about to hit 2 years. It's crazy because I started January 1st of 2024. Whew, man, how time flies when you're having fun. 700 streams of getting close to being done with Scarecrow. Hopefully soon. All right. Oh, so exciting. It was August 2024. Yep. So we have a good batch of you. I feel like we have a good number of you from our 2024, and then a good number of you from later, from this year, 2025. So always love having you guys come join in the writing process. It's always so surreal to me. This is such a surreal experience when I just look back on it all. I'll probably feel even more surreal when we get to the WriteNow A Thon at the end of the month. Oh man. All right, let's do it. We want to try to get to all the other stories. So let's hop into the next story. So Marta, we're going to be hopping into a dark comedy, dark absurd. So this is absurdist horror for Marta. Okay. Make sure I'm staying hydrated. Okay. A Typical Old Fart, a dark comedy absurdist horror by author Marta Chowanska. And let's see. All right, so what do we get? So this is a first draft. This is flash fiction. So this is flash fiction. This is a first draft. And let's see. So this is there any feedback they want? So they know it's funny. Okay, so what they want to know is, so Marta wants to know if it is too offensive or so she so Marta is a Polish writer. She wants to know if it's too offensive for like standard American society, the gay stuff, plus there's political satire. Let's see, there's a university festival called Being Gay is Okay coming, and they need some ideas that would be hilarious but not insulting for LGBT plus community. So when we do a comedy like this, we have to keep in mind what is the author's intention. Their intention is to be absurdist. It's to be comedic, and the feedback she's wanting to know is does it feel like it's too much or not enough? So we're gonna see just what we can try to help her out with. I think we might have read an early excerpt of Typical Old Fart a while back. I think we read a very early excerpt of it. Okay, let's see just what we can do for Marta. Mysterious Box. Morning after Sirius's advice. If it weren't for Alexa rescheduling yesterday's meeting for today, I probably wouldn't have gone up at all. What a loser I am. I guess you are who you hang out with. I should have just left that old geezer Sirius alone. But who would have thought I'd end up regretting it? With bare feet, I stumble across the floor, searching for my slippers. Instead of slippers, I stub my toes on something hard. Surprised, I pick up a cardboard box from the floor. I don't remember leaving it there. I'll need a knife to open this mysterious package. Pulling on the warm wool socks Grandma Elma knitted me last Christmas, I run downstairs to the kitchen. Has anyone seen my slippers? I shout, but the only answer is an echo. No response. Just silence. Deafening silence. Could it be that no one's home? Yes. The whole house is mine. Party time. But who throws a party in the morning? Probably only Russians or Poles. 2. No one parties like the Russians and Poles. With the house to myself, I decide to channel my inner Russian. I text Ajin. Nope. I have no clue. I couldn't even try. Let's put that into a translator. Translator. Let's see if we can get this. Hey man, come on over to my place, but don't come without vodka. Oh, she literally says it right here. Yo, bro, come over, but don't even think about showing up without vodka. His reply comes fast. I see you've changed more than just your orientation. Ha, His sense of humor has definitely gotten sharper. Talking to him is like trying to write a sonnet with a banana instead of a pen. Impossible, messy, and somehow still funny. That's my stomach. I'm starving. For a second, I almost think, what should I wear? Wait, no. What should I cook for breakfast? Hunger really scrambles the brain. I don't know any Russian cooking shows, but hey, I know a Polish one. I flip open my laptop and put on Cooking with Magda Gessler. Ding dong. The doorbell. My hands are glued together with sticky dough. More flour. Then more. Ding dong. This guy's gonna kill me before he ever learns patience. Ugh. Guess I'll have to answer the door looking like the Michelin Man, covered in flour. Oh, fantastic. It's Ajin. Turns out he really does know how to use Google Translate. The totally not gay party. Haha, and here I thought a woman's place is in the kitchen was just a stereotype. The only thing cooling my annoyance is the bottle of vodka he's holding. Like I said, he wasn't allowed to come without it. Dude, who even sold you booze? I asked, half disbelieving. Guess Russians aren't the only ones who know how to have fun. Catch! I fling a chunk of pancake batter that whizzes past his nose. Someone's got to play the dad while mine's not around. Ha! And you throw like a girl, too. Looks like that nickname is here to stay. Before long, the rest of the crew shows up. I welcome everyone with pancakes, served directly to the face. Perry takes his with the forehead. Damon blocks his with the chin. Dad would have been proud. Mom? Probably less so. But hey, you can't please everybody. At 7 a.m., the soundtrack is EDM mixed with the clinking of shot glasses. Who would have thought? 4 guys, 3 of them underage. My feet are freezing, Ajin whines. Got any slippers? Slippers. Oh, right. The box under my bed. The look on his face is priceless when I hand him Grandma Elma's socks. A mix of disgust and betrayal. 4. The package. Splinters stabbing into my bare feet, running on Smirnoff Fuel. I shoot up and down the stairs like I've got a rocket up my ass. The guys haven't managed to finish a round without me. Perfect. More vodka left for me. All 3 of them are staring at the unboxing like it's a Netflix premiere. Hold up. Perry whips out his phone and starts recording. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting one drunk teenager and a very mysterious box. First thing I pull out is a note. I didn't want your parents to see what's inside, so I gave them a book in a box while you were still asleep. I read. That handwriting, no question, serious. The booze makes it even funnier because the guys lose it completely. Come on, let's see. What's this contraband book your parents can't know about? How to Be a Convincing Gay, first edition, 1981. I cannot believe what I'm looking at. 5. How to Be a Convincing Gay. Serious in his bottom life advice, and of course the guide reflects it. Gestures. Wave your arms like a conductor on cocaine. The bigger, the better. Gestures. Wave your arms like a conductor on cocaine. The bigger, the better. Vocabulary. Drop, oh honey, and sweetie into literally every sentence, even if you're just asking for toilet paper. Fashion. Pink socks. That's 90% of the job done. Leopard print scarf covers the rest. 4. Music. Say Madonna is your spiritual mother. Doesn't matter if you've never heard a single track. 5. Gossip. Claim you know a hairdresser named Fabio. No one's going to fact check, and it sounds professional. 6. Sports. Act terrified of soccer, but make sure you can list every judge from RuPaul's Drag Race. 7. Romance. If someone asks about your boyfriend, always say, it's complicated. Mysterious enough, they won't push. 8. Avoid overdoing it. Don't kiss your bros hello, unless you actually want to freak them out. 9. Backup topics. Keep 3 safe lines in your pocket. I love Broadway. Is that Gucci or a knockoff? And what serum do you use? Works every time. 10. The golden rule. Remember, a gay guy's no different than a straight guy, but do your best to convince Alex he's different in every possible way. That last one, yeah, definitely is Cyrus's personal touch. 6. The parents return. Startled by a hand landing on my shoulder, I jump out of my chair. Ha! Like a girl, the guys laugh and I still have no idea what's coming. I turn around, shock. A pancake smacks me in the face. Dad? I shout. I wish it were a ghost instead. And Mom? I hear an annoyed female voice. But it's not what you think, panic overwhelms me. Though the pancakes are good, Dad manages to find a silver lining in everything. Slap! That's the sound of Dad's bald head, or rather a pancake taking the hit. Eat pancakes like that yourself, you bald fool! Mom snaps, her anger rising faster than inflation under Trump. The pancake hits the floor as quickly as America's immigration numbers drops in his metaphors. You're grounded. No going out, she yells. Fine, I won't go anywhere, I respond instinctively, dazed. And you're going to university, of course. What else was I hoping for? 7. The drunk student. Realizing that going to classes at the university is the only way to see Alexa, I throw on the first clothes I can find. I'm doing it so fast you'd think I've got a rocket up my ass. Just need to brush my teeth. In the bathroom, I'm hit by some kind of undefined stench. Mom, the septic tank's overflowing again. What septic tank? To my shock, Mom actually comes upstairs, something she almost never does. Usually she just yells from downstairs until even a monk would lose his patience. Suddenly, her face is way too close to mine. What? You want to kiss me or something? I tease her, but instead of aiming for my face, she leans toward my armpit. That's no septic tank, you idiot. Even bums don't stink like you do. Anger bubbles inside me. On the other hand, at least I'm reminded that before heading to university, I should shower and put on clean clothes. Ready to go, I rush down the stairs to the door. And where exactly are we going? Mom asks. To university? Completely wasted? Completely wasted. And reading. Wow, I feel like I went through like an emotional journey in that reading. I was like, oh my goodness, Marta. There was definitely parts I was laughing at. There were some parts I was like, how should I feel? But I think what you did a really good job on is I think you've created a lot of different emotional highs and lows in a chapter. I think there were some things that I found funny. There are some things that some people would probably find pretty funny, other people not so much. And I think it's interesting because you're always taking a shot in the dark when you're doing humor, especially when you're doing humor that is meant for certain audiences, and especially when you're really calling out to things that are making it more facetious about a certain type, right? So you're clearly playing to LGBTQ culture. That's clearly one culture that you're playing to. For me, I mean, as somebody who's always been part of that culture, I feel like I found it all pretty funny. Granted, it was all like referencing stuff. I think the book itself was referencing stuff from like the 80s or 90s. I found it entertaining. I think I would want a little bit more of like the character perspective and how does the character feel about it. Um, but yeah, did I find anything that was offensive? I don't think I don't think I found anything offensive. I think what's interesting is I think a lot of the situational humor with the character and the friends, that was all good. The pancakes, the vodka, like that was all good stuff. That was good setup. The LGBT humor, I think I generally found that funny. But what you want to do with this type of thing is, especially if you're trying to see if things are offensive or too offensive, I generally don't tend to read a lot of LGBTQ plus books. So what I would recommend, this is actually the type of thing where you'd want to get sensitivity readers for, or you'd want to get more people who are LGBT readers or who read this type of material and ask, hey, offensive, not offensive. This is the type of story where you would want to get greater feedback from more people, right? I am not an expert with humor, so I don't always know like what's that fine line. But as a reader, I found a lot of it entertaining. I think you made some political You made some political touches there. And in just this chapter alone, I don't actually think the political references were necessary. There's always opportunities to do political satire, right? And of course, when you do political satire, you're going to get people who are very for it, people who are very against it based on their belief and their political affiliation. But I think in this instance, the political satire, it was such a short excerpt. It was like only a paragraph. I just don't think it really added value to this piece. I think all the LGBT stuff, that was a focus and that was great. But I think in this chapter alone, I think you should get rid of the political satire because it's just not, it doesn't feel like it's that big. It almost feels like it was kind of thrown in as an afterthought. If the political satire were more ingrained in the chapter, then I would include it. But because it's not that ingrained, it's kind of like an afterthought. I think when you do anything like that, especially with U.S. politics, you're chancing people feeling a certain way. It could be funny, it could not be funny. And I think unless that is your main theme or intention, of course I'd have to read more of the book. If the majority of the book, political satire, is like a main theme, then of course you want to keep it. But if you're really, if at times it's feeling like an afterthought, then I ask myself, why are we doing the political part of it? I would rather you focus on the LGBTQ plus part of it because that is very ingrained in the commentary that you're trying to make and the hilariousness of what the character's experiencing. So that's just my 2 cents. But of course, once again, my feedback's subjective, and I would make sure that you get feedback from multiple readers and writers. And especially those who read comedy as well, those who are in your intended readership, because I think this one could be like a hard thing to balance, but overall, I found it entertaining. So really, really great work. I mean, it's hard doing anytime you're doing. I think anytime you're doing dark comedy or absurdist humor, like that's a hard one. That's a genre that I'm not sure how I would balance. I'm like, okay, how do you find the balance between making fun of things without rubbing people the wrong way, but you're always going to rub people the wrong way if you do any satire. Yeah, so that's the comedy is definitely not one of my strengths, but I really commend you for what you're doing because I think it's absolutely incredible to make that attempt, and I can tell you've gotten a lot of really good feedback for your work so far. So really, really great work, Marta. When I go into the pieces itself and I ask myself what are things that really stood out, and by the way, I also want to hear from the chat. For those of you who are watching, what did you think of it? Did you find it funny? Did you find it like it was too much? You're like, hey, were you on board? Did you feel an emotional connection at all? Did you feel nothing at all? Did you feel did you feel offended? If you feel offended, like you don't have to get into the logistics of it. But it's more like if you felt offended, just say you felt offended. If you didn't, and you're like, yeah, that's humor. Because I know that was Marta's biggest ask for the story. She wanted to know if it felt too offensive for a US audience. So I think that would be that's the feedback that we want to get. When I hop into the story itself and I ask myself, okay, as we go into the character development, let's see. I think the setup for this is good. And I mean, morning after. So I don't think this is the beginning. I think this is an excerpt. I was like, I don't think this is chapter 1. Is it? Okay, yeah. So this is part 2. So we already have a setup for the character previously to this. This is not the beginning of the story. Okay. So we already know who our main character is by this point. I think you did, and you do a really good job, Marta, of doing call outs to certain items and then using them for humorous moments. You do the Grandma Elma's socks. I almost want a little bit more like, how terrible do these socks look? I kind of like want like, do they have little like Christmas like reindeer on them and they just look absolutely abhorrent? I think because this is comedy, you could actually play into how terrible they are. Especially because you call them out later on, which I think would be funny. Yep, party time. And then good. I like how you responded. Once again, your situational humor, I think, works well. The only thing is, especially since you're asking for a US audience, I don't know. I'm not sure what the stereotypes are for Russians and Poles. So, like, this one would be lost on me a little bit. But I think, yes, the whole house is mine. Party time. But who throws a party in the morning? probably only Russians and Poles. Like, okay, but it kind of builds up like some character for his friends. So, I mean, I think it works. But that was just my thoughts. Let's see, no one part is like the Russians and Poles. With the house to myself, I decided to channel my inner Russian. I think the friends that you have set up here is really good. Sense of humor has definitely gotten sharper. Talking to him is like trying to write a sonnet. And I mean, this is funny, right? Talking to him is like trying to write a sonnet with a banana instead of a pen. Really, really good description. Oh, Wario, that's actually a really good comment. Like, I'm not American, but I in fact drink early morning with Polish people before. So, Marta, there you go. That probably speaks to the Polish-Russian stereotype. There you go. Let's see, Mass Toaster. You're like, not part of the community, so I didn't get the humor. Okay, so you're not the right audience for it. Eli. I don't think the inclusion of the Trump line is bad, but it didn't really fit there too. Yeah, and I think that's why. I think it just didn't feel like it fit there in combination with all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. Talking to him is like turn to write a sonnet. This is good character development, by the way. I think anytime you can use comedy with your character development, this was a really, really great job in getting a sense of the friend. And then you also like to use sound effects for humor. Great work. That is a standard for comedy. Um, and I thought this was the only, I didn't quite get this punchline. Wait, I'm pretty sure the main character is a guy. Like, the main character is a guy, right? I'm pretty sure the main character is a guy. So I didn't quite get this. The vodka stuff was all funny. Yeah, definitely thought the vodka stuff was funny. Like the vodka partying Russian style, like I thought that was hilarious. And then the pancake thing, I'm like, I really liked the pancake thing. That built some really great character and some absurdist moments for like the characters. That he greets everybody who enters the kitchen with pancakes. There's something about that I'm like, yes. It made me like this character even more. So you did a really good job with that pancake bit. And this is talk about what a great way to do character development with an action. We now learn who each of his friends are with the way that they take a pancake to the face. Like, oh my goodness, that was a really good call. By the way, that was a really good call. They're basically for what's that, Russian and Polish guys partying at 7 a.m. in the morning. And of course, the grandma's Elma socks. That's great. Okay, so then we get into the unboxing. I think it's perfect that the phone is filming it. I'm like, okay, good job. I think you could play into the friend filming it even more heavily, like have him doing something like, oh, what's this going to be? Because when unboxing videos, anybody who watches unboxing videos, it's all about building up the tension as it's opened. I think you could have the friend play up into the tension of like, oh, what could this be? This could be so and so. I think it'd play up the tension a little bit more. And then we get the description of the title, How to Be a Convincing Guy. I was like, okay, funny. Because you don't really know what to expect, but you do set up the chapter title, the package. Okay, what are we going to get? And then we basically get this laundry list of things. Now, I think this is interesting. When we think about humor, I think it does work. But once again, you're going to want to get feedback from different people, from different readers and sensitivity readers. I think the one thing that I'm missing from this section is how does the reader feel about it? We get how the reader feels about it for number 10, which like this is great, but we want more of this interjected throughout. It doesn't have to be after every one, but right now this just feels like a dictionary. We kind of want, how does the character feel after like number 2 and then number 5? We want the character to interject more because we want to be able to understand the humor through the character's perspective. right? Or maybe have the friend, because the friend's filming it, right? Have the friend interject after number 2 of like, oh, bet you this is like, oh, honey, or oh, sweet, or have like the friends play around with it, right? They're all drunk AF, right? So I would have the characters interject, not after every single number, that would be too repetitive, but I think I would have them interject maybe like 2 times throughout this. So that way we can stay grounded in the present moment. And then the parents' return was hilarious. The mom and dad returning, that was great. The dad taking the pancake and be like, all right, I'm just going to make the most of it. And then, of course, the mom smacks him on the head. I was like, all right, that was funny. Good. That was a good call. Yeah, and then I kind of already touched upon the political satire on it. Yeah, I just like, you can make the political satire work, but once again, makes it so out of left field. I just don't think it's necessary in this part because you're doing so many other types of satire. You're going to university. And then we go back to Alexa. So you started the beginning of the this excerpt with the Alexa bit, and now we're returning to Alexa. I would actually almost reference Alexa somewhere in the middle when he's kind of getting drunk and be like, oh, how he wants to, like, he thinks he sees Alexa or something that reminds him of Alexa, and have one of his friends make fun of it, just as a subtle reminder that that's kind of who's on his mind. The septic tank bit. The septic tank bit is all right. I think I would condense the septic tank bit just a little bit, get to the punchline a little faster. That'd be my recommendation. I think it works, but punchline faster. This is a good ending. Completely wasted. Completely wasted. I kind of want a character, an action tag here as well. He said as he grinned. So I think I would do. I think I would add an action tag here with the completely wasted if this is the end of the chapter. So awesome. Awesome. Really, really great work, Marta. And once again, thank you so much for submitting, my friend. I really appreciate it. I absolutely could not write that style of writing at all. So I like tip my hat to you, my friend, because I definitely could not do that. Really, really great work on your part. And hopefully the book is a success, especially as you continue to revise this and get feedback. Woo, awesome. All right, feeling pretty good. Okay, so next one, we're going to be hopping right into our next one. We're going to be helping out our friend Zencast. We're going to be helping you out with another excerpt for Spellpaige Academia, Middle School, Chapter 2. So we're going to be helping with a revised draft of this chapter with pacing and flowing. But first, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. With over 700 consecutive streams and over 200 live readings of the critique stream, this is a writing community to help you with accountability, writing, staying motivated, and all the other things. We do fiction contests, we have our end of year writing conference, and so much more. If you want to stay a part of the community, come join us. You'll be alerted when you go live. Just tap that follow or subscribe button. I think I might have butchered that, but just tap those buttons. You know the drill. Oh man, I'm feeling good. All right, guys, how are you feeling? We've got some vastly different stories today. What a great way! What a great way to go about our December story critique stream. Like, what a great way. I feel like this is actually a really fun way to end off our 2025 story and critique show. Oh, man. And if you're just hopping into the stream or you're watching this on the replay, welcome. This is the story and critique stream where we read stories live from writers in the community. With over 200 stories read, usually these would get queued up for the next stream, but this is going to be the last story and critique stream of 2025. So we'll be returning with the critique stream in 2026, which means I will be refreshing the queue and we'll be starting from the top come January 1st. As we push into the new year. All right, so very exciting. I'm having so much fun, my friends. I love these readings. I love doing story readings. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? If you're in the live chat, how are you feeling about the story so far? You feel good? In the middle? Great. Does listen? And actually, another question comes to mind. as I continue to think about, actually, yeah, so I have a better question. As I continue to think about the critique stream itself, what do you like? What do you like the most about the story and critique stream? I think I'm going to do a Q&A actually because I actually want some feedback. So I'm going to pose this to all you guys who've been here for a while, or been with me on the critique shows for the past years. As I look into 2026, I always ask myself, how do I what are things that I can improve and what are things that I can do to make the critique show better? So, I want to pose this question to you. What do you like about the story and critique stream the most? What is like the type of value? Is it like, oh, I like to listen to other writers' stories, or oh, it's getting the feedback from my story, which really helps. What do you like about the critique stream? I would love to hear from you as I think about 2026 and how can I make the critique stream better. I think I'll throw a poll in here. What do you like the most about the story and critique stream? Let's see. We're going to give some good answers. Let's see. Let's see. All right. What do we got here? We got getting feedback on my story. All right. Let's see. All right. I think I'm actually getting some good ideas. Okay. I was like, what do you like the most about the story critique stream? And I'm giving you a poll. Let's see what's another one. Let's see. I'm like, what are my guesses on what you guys like the most about the story and critique stream? I'll see your comments in just a second. All right. So I think. Okay. I'll start the poll. So I will start that poll in the YouTube chat. If you're on Twitch, sorry. I was like, I think, let's see, it looks like, yeah, we have the majority of our fam over on YouTube right now. So if you're on Twitch, always feel free to come join us over on YouTube if you want to come join in the poll. So I just queued up a poll over on the YouTube chat under the Right Now YouTube channel. The question that I posed to everyone is, what do you like the most about the story and critique stream? I am so curious. Answer now. I'm just very curious. So I'll queue up that poll and we'll go over the answer after the next story. But just kind of seeing some of your comments so far. Oh, Wario, you said they're all good. In my opinion, it's almost intimidating. Oh, Wario, I'm actually curious. Why does it feel intimidating? If I were to take a guess, sometimes a lot of writers will be like, okay, because stories are in such different places. If anything, like I hope that hearing different types of stories gives you some inspiration that you could work on your own story. And I think when we think about our stories as writers, the goal isn't to compare ourselves to others, right? Because we're all on our own writing journey. I've been writing for 20 years because that's just like my background, right? But other writers I know are way better with certain styles, description style. Like I read my writing, I'm like, yeah, no, there's things that work, things that don't work. But I think the learning journey that I try to take myself through with these stories is that there's things that work well for every writer, and there's things that don't work well for every writer. But the truth is, we don't know until we start working on our own storytelling. So, yeah, Awara, I would love to hear. I would love to check out your writing sometime. Absolutely. I forgot what type of writing that you're working on. CJ, Courtney, I love the feedback I get and the ability to go back and see the growth of not only the story, but also my personal growth. Yeah, and for those of you who've submitted stories for a while, you can go check out the Story and Critique archive, which is linked down in the YouTube description. And you can go back in history out of the 200 plus stories we've done and see older versions of your story. Everything's linked with the story title, which YouTube video it's linked to, and all of that. So it's actually kind of cool to be able to go back. Thanks again, Courtney, for putting that together. Let's see. You really enjoy getting a taste of genres I don't read and love when I enjoy some genres I don't typically care for. Yeah, and we get such a mix of genres on the critique show. I think the most popular, actually, I can probably see. I can probably look at the summary, actually. Let's see. Give me a summary. Kind of curious. Oh my goodness, so many submissions. I think the last time I updated this, the last time I updated this, the submission form was probably back in February. Let's see, do I have... Yeah, so when I look at the different formats that were submitted, it looks like the majority of formats are generally a novel length, and then the rest are a mix of other ones. Interesting. And guys, I'll show you here because it's actually really interesting analytics. Wow, I haven't looked at the analytics for this one in a while. I wish I had the analytics for the genre. It doesn't give me the genre analytics. I wish I had the genre analytics. It's because I didn't do it as a multiple choice. I was like, I'd be really curious to see what the majority of the main genres are. My guess is it's probably mixed between fantasy and sci-fi, just from all the genres that I've seen. Yeah, but you guys might find this interesting. I'll throw this up on screen real fast. I just find this fascinating. So when I pull up the analytics for the critique show submissions, I'll throw this up. What's really interesting, so I'm looking at the formats and the responses right now. When I look at the formats that were submitted, the majority of them are in the novel length category. And then it looks like short story is the next one. And then we have a splattering of all the other formats. And then how far along is the work? I would think actually that the majority would be like first draft. But look, we kind of have actually a pretty even number of the different drafts. So let's see, we got 24% for brainstorming, 25% rough draft. So rough draft and brainstorming are pretty even. 17% revising, 12% final draft, 13% second through fifth drafts. Only a small percent have been published. And then what are these? Like a brainstorming, story world, planning the in-between drafts. Oh yeah, I think I cleaned this up. I think I got rid of some of these options. But yeah, so it looks like there's actually a pretty even number between brainstorming and first draft, and then second draft through and revisions and final draft. So yeah, I actually thought that was really fascinating. Okay, so we're going to hop into our next one. Yeah, I totally see that, Awarium. So this is a really, really great comment, by the way. I just want to say thank you for sharing. So Awarium was saying that sometimes it can feel intimidating. You said it feels like that because of the amount of talent many writers have. I know I shouldn't compare, but as much as it is intimidating, it's also very impressive. People can just cook up stories like the ones we see here. Yeah, we see some really interesting stories in the critique stream. And I think what's interesting, Awario, is that everyone's on such a different journey and that we don't know where everyone's journey is. Some writers are just getting started. Some writers have been writing for years. And I think that's always the thing that we don't think about in writing journeys. So, but I think it is impressive. We have so much creativity in this community. I continue to be impressed. I agree with you there. I continue to be impressed with how much creativity we have in this community. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. Courtney asked if there's a way to do it from the archive list. I don't think so. I mean, you could probably, I'm sure you could probably do something with ChatGPT and like throw it into like the numbers and have it come up with the data. Um, Actually, you might be able to. I'm just not familiar with She. I'm sure there is a way to do it with Excel. You would just have to look into it. Woo! Congrats, Whiteseer. Congrats, my friend. That is so exciting. I know Whiteseer has been making some awesome progress on their novel, A Phase Bounty. Whiteseer, you're gonna get published before I do. You're gonna beat me to the punch, my friend. Scarecrow, gotta get it published next year. That's my goal for next year. Publish Scarecrow. All right. Whew, okay. Enough distractions. Let's do it. Let's hop into our next story. All right. And let's see. All right. And we are hopping into the next one after that break. Okay. So, we're queuing that one up. All right. So this was an earlier draft. I think this is a newer draft of a chapter I think we had read previously. Let's see, for Zen, we're going to see how we can help out Zen over here. All right, and let me throw this up and we will get right into it. Welcome to Spellpaige Academia, Middle School, Chapter 2. This is a sci-fi fantasy slice of life by author Zencast. And let's see, they feel like they need to work on refining the pacing. They're so they want to know how the pacing feels and what else can be improved. This is a rewrite. This is before the character leaves the house. This is the introduction of their family. They want to know how it feels. So this is currently a revision. Okay. I think we touched upon this chapter a while back, so let's see if we can help out Zencast. Welcome to Spellpaige Academia, Middle School, Chapter 2. I hurry downstairs, drawn by the scent of breakfast. Good morning, everyone, I call. Good morning, Tomoko, Mom says. Iroha Kamikawa stands at the counter, ponytail tucked beneath a headscarf as she rummages through a drawer. She doesn't even look up, but her hand gestures towards my seat with practiced precision. I slide into place at our scrap wood dining table. Mom has gone all out. The spread looks like something out of a magazine. A vibrant salad sits at the center, crisp lettuce and kale, bell peppers sliced into ribbons, boiled eggs gleaming under a light vignette. Beside it, a basket of freshly baked bread waits, each slice thick, warm, slathered with Mom's mixed berry jam, reds and purples shimmering like stained glass. A pitcher of orange juice stands nearby, beads of condensation sliding down the glass. The strips of plant-based bacon crackle on a hot plate, their edges curling golden brown. A separate dish holds steaming smoked fish sausages, a nostalgic staple in our house. The scent wraps around me like a hug. I reach for the bacon. Tomoko, we don't eat until everybody's at the table. Ray stands across from me, hands on her hips, cheeks puffed out like an offended pufferfish. Her strawberry pink pigtails bouncing as she points at Mom. Dad joins us, shrugging off his doctor's coat and dropping it on the chair. At home, Kotetsu Komikawa isn't a doctor. He's just Dad. Yeah, I know, I tell Ray, ruffling her hair. She squeals but grins. Mom sits at last, apron splattered from cooking. We humbly receive the food, we say together, then dig in. Despite the feast in front of me, I only end up nudging my salad around my plate. Dad notices. I can feel his eyes flick up from his mug. But before he says anything, the hollow screen above the counter shifts. The cheerful cooking program dissolves into a breaking news banner. The room doesn't go silent exactly, but the mood tilts. Today marks the second anniversary of the Gokiburi attack on the Konshu 6 capital. Officials confirm that a cache of classified data has been stolen. Both sides are heightening security as evacuations continue. The anchor's voice is calm, almost too calm, while the images behind her show towers burning and rescue pods streaking across a smog-thick sky. The blue light washes across her breakfast table, dulling the warm colors of Mom's careful cooking. Ray stops mid-bite. That's scary. Mom folds her hands. May Nozawa watch over them. Dad reaches for his tablet to lower the volume. Not to ignore it, just to soften it. The crisis hangs in the air, but he anchors us back to the present with a small, quiet act. I try to keep eating, but the footage blends too easily with the remnants of my dream. Vanessa. Fireworks. Shaking ground. The unease inside me sharpens. Dad looks at me again. Not pushy, just steady. Tomoko, he says gently. That's the third time you've moved the same piece of lettuce. I blink and force a breath. Sorry, I just thinking. About Vanessa? He asks. I nod. He doesn't respond right away. He lets the hollow screen chatter fade beneath the ordinary sounds of breakfast. The clinking plates, the soft tap of Ray's feet against her chair, Mom pouring more coffee. Only then does he speak. She's off-world, far from all this. She's safe. He gives my shoulder a quick squeeze. And you're starting something big today. Don't let the noise out there drown everything you've worked for. The words settle around me like a small shield, grounding me away from the news, the dream, the fear I don't want to name. Dad takes a bite of sausage and a bit of salad. Your cooking is as excellent as always, Aroha. Thank you, Kotetsu. I used some grains from the greenhouse for the salad, Mom says. I take another bite of salad. The crisp taste of the greens and tart vignette ultimately arrives. Shifting to weather forecasts, the hollow screen's blue fades into brightness. The room breathes again. You're right, Dad, I say. He grins. I usually am. Now, when's your teleport? In 20 minutes. I should double check my bag. He nods. We'll see you off. I pause before heading upstairs. You're really taking the day off? What about the hospital? Dad smiles into his coffee. Remember that essay from 5th grade? The stars one? I groan. The all-night disaster. That one. His eyes warm. You kept at it long after everyone else quit. Spellpaige needs that kind of stubbornness. My face heats. I stare at my plate. My mom hides a smile. Ray giggles through a mouthful of crumbs. Their quiet pride settles warmly around me. Thank you. All of you. Thank you for the food. Upstairs, I check my bag one last time. ID badge, acceptance scroll, wand charm. My fingers brush the bracelet Dad made when I was 4. The runes along its span glow faintly with my pulse. I slip it on and instantly it feels steadier. My room feels different this morning. Like everything is standing still. The blankets still hold my shape. My blazer hangs on the chair like a flag waiting to fly. Posters of galaxies shimmer as if sensing the day ahead. Everything I love fits here, and yet it all suddenly feels too small. Downstairs, the sounds of home continue. Mom rinsing dishes, Ray humming off-key, Dad's steady steps. Normal. Safe. Familiar. For a moment, I want to stay. But I shoulder my bag and head down. Each step creaks like a page turning. Mom soothes my collar. Remember to write. Dad squeezes my shoulder. And breathe before teleporting. Helps with the vertigo. Ray rushes over, waving a folded paper. Tomoko, take this! I open it and gasp. A childlike drawing of her family. The house, the hub of her cars, even Dad's boots at the door. Every line is full of love. I hug her tight. Thanks, Ray. So you don't forget harm. She darts back to Mom and Dad, waving wildly. I wave back. Bye. I'll see you at the entrance ceremony. Outside, the street hums with a blend of engines and enchantments. Hoverpods glide overhead. Glowing sigils ripple through the air to guide traffic. Vendors shout over spell forges, selling buns, bottled sunlight, and magically grown vegetables. A courier which sweeps past on a levitation board, parcels orbiting her like small moons. Runic trails from overnight transports glow faintly in the sky, like constellations refusing to fade. Somewhere beyond them, Spellpaige awaits, its towers powered by logic and legend, circuitry woven with mana threads. The city's pulse sinks with mine. I tightened my grip on my bag and stepped forward. Spellpaige awaits. End reading. Wow. So first off, Zencast, I have to say, I am so impressed with how much you've revised this chapter. I remember reading a previous version of this chapter much early on. I definitely remember the previous version. I want to say we did this chapter too. It's been maybe like 4 to 6 months ago. And I remember in the original version, from what I can remember, there was a focus on kind of like the family and the food, and that stood out. But now in this iteration of it, you've added so many other elements. I feel like Tomoko goes through a journey from start to finish in this chapter. You did a really great job of that. You definitely nailed that part. I feel like there's foreshadowing, there's tension, there's world building, and there's character development. Now, I think there's still a couple opportunities, but where the chapter was at before and where it's at now is absolutely incredible and very, very obvious. So I really want to commend you on that. Really, really great work, my friend. I think you absolutely did a really, really great job on that part. And I'm really happy to see just how much improvement has gone into this chapter. Because I know with the later chapters, I know how much fun I started having with the characters. I think when I think about the characters, I think I started connecting with Tomoko in chapter 3. So I'm actually really glad because I feel like I start kind of getting more into her shoes in this chapter. So really, really great work on that, my friend. I know your biggest ask on this chapter was the pacing. I personally, I liked the pacing. I actually don't think I had any issues with it. It kind of feels like it's kind of at this like slower, steadier pace, which is what you're kind of wanting to achieve at this point. But then we kind of get that moment of tension. And I think that's actually intentional and it does a good job. I think you can definitely kind of cut down on some of the wordiness, of course, but that's literally more like for like the editing stage of it. I think with where you're at in revision stage, it's actually in a much, much better place than where it was at previously. So let's hop into the minutia of it. So, what do we think? And if you're watching this, what did you think? Drop a comment. Was there anything that really stood out to you? Do you think that the pacing feels good? Yes or no? You're like, hey, if you like the pacing, just type like the pacing. If you felt the pacing was off, just type pacing off. Let me know. Drop a comment. I would love to hear. Okay. So let's say hurry downstairs, drawn by the scent of breakfast. Yep. So I think if I recall, chapter 1 was basically a dream sequence and waking up and being introduced to Tomoko and a little bit of her backstory. Now we're kind of, I think this is the first present moment scene and with the family. We know she's going off to school. I would almost recommend starting the chapter with some type of hesitation or some type of reference to her going to school, to her going to Spellpaige, simply because you do such a good job of ending on the Spellpaige beat. I think it would tighten this opening up if you open it up with her thinking or saying or doing something about Spellpaige, or about that this is going to be like her last breakfast. I hurry downstairs, drawn by the scent of breakfast. The last breakfast before. I hurry downstairs, drawn by the scent of my last breakfast before Spellpaige. So something to that effect. I think that would make it a little stronger. Yeah, I mean, I think this is good. You do the setup with mom. That's fine. You set up her personality. I'm good with that. Now, I personally don't read slice of life writing so much. Like for me, as a reader, I always want more action in my writing. But for slice of life, this is actually perfect. You want things like this where you're really describing like a cozy home environment, you're describing food. And I could tell just from reading this, I was like, this kind of makes me hungry now. Like this all sounds good. I want what was her name? I want Iroha Kamikaze. I want that breakfast. It sounds tasty. So I think you did a good job of setting up the food without doing it like too much. So I thought that was a nice touch. You gave us this nice cozy slice of life breakfast, which is great. And then you give us everything. Oh yeah, I want the bacon too. Zencast, I totally blame you if I want bacon the rest of the day. Okay, Tomoka, we don't eat until everybody's at the table. So I know this is Ray speaking. Because you hadn't introduced Ray yet, I thought this was the mom. I would set this up with a speech tag. I would start it with a speech tag. Ray screams. Tomoko, yeah, I would just like Ray screams or Ray shouts. Tomoko, we don't eat until everybody's at the table. And then my little sister stands across from me, hands on her hips. And I think I would do that. And then you could have that part of the same beat. And I would go, my little sister, and I would do that. So that way you don't chance confusing who's speaking here. Then dad joins us and we get the dad bit. That's good. I like the tension that we get from the news broadcast. That was a really, really great call. The only thing I want is what do we see? So what is a breaking news? So the cheerful cooking program dissolves into a breaking news. Is there a TV on in the background? I'm not quite clear where this is popping up. So you said it's a hollow screen. Okay, so but before he says anything, the hollow screen above the counter shifts. So there's a hollow screen above a counter. So it's I mean I know what a hollow screen is. It's basically like a hollow television. So a hollow television basically pops up on the counter. The cheerful and there's a breaking news banner. Okay. I might give a little description on what the hollow screen looks like. I'm trying to get a visualization on what does the hollow screen look like in your world. It's basically a digital television screen, right? Um, and then we get the news broadcaster. You describe what's going on in the background after, which is great. But I think you should still start with a news a news broadcaster comes into focus. I think you should set up with the news broadcaster. A news broadcaster, curly hair, blonde, disheveled, comes into focus, leaning into the camera. Today marks the second anniversary. As they hold up a microphone. Do they hold a microphone? Are they talking an earpiece? So I think give us a little setup on the speaker before, because all of this after is great. The anchor's voice is calm, almost too calm. And then the anchor leans back and we see the images in the background. So I think this is good. Just give us a little bit more setup for this, and that'll be stronger. And I think this would actually be stronger here. This me being an editor, break up the dialogue with Ray. That's Ray says, stopping mid-bite. This is just a recommendation, but I think that would, I think it'd be better like that. That's Ray says, stopping mid-bite. Scary. I think that would be a better way to do that. Ray interrupt. Mom folds her hands. Minazo watch over them. This is really good. This is great character development. This is good. Dad's trying to recenter them around the family. It's kind of interesting that the dad can tell that she's uneasy, not about the news broadcast, but about Vanessa. Interesting. I would almost wonder. Hmm. No, I think I'm fine because the dad should know the daughter. So I think I'm actually fine with that. Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean the rest of the conversation's pretty good. I really like this bonding moment that we have between the dad and Tomoko. I think that's actually really, really well done. I really like that you did that bonding moment with the dad. I think that's actually that's really I think that's cute. I like that a lot. And then we go upstairs. The bracelet that the dad or the runes bracelet the dad made. I think that makes it more special. So I think that's awesome. I love your description of the room. My room feels different this morning. Like everything is standing still. The blanket still hold my shape. My blazer hangs on the chair like a flag waiting to fly. Posters of galaxy shimmer as if sensing the day ahead. I actually like this. I think this is a nice little description of the room. I'm wondering if it's. I'm the only thing I'm wondering. Everything I left fits here, yet it also only feels too small. I'm wondering if this is necessary here. If the room bit might be more important. I mean, granted, this is her last time in the room, so actually, never mind. This is the last time in her room, so never mind. It's fine there. And then we get the final bits with the family. It's cute with their sister. That's a cute moment. The childlike drawing, very cute. As a side note, where does Tomoko put the drawing? Does she grasp and does she put it in her pocket? Does she put it in her bag? Is she holding on to it as she walks outside? Just where does she put it? And then we kind of get the world building here. I don't think at the end of this chapter. I mean, I think it's important to kind of set up. I don't think we need as much description. I mean, actually, it's not that much. It's only like it's. I kept thinking it was more. I might shorten this just a little bit. I would make this one paragraph because really we want to get to Spellpaige. I mean, actually, because what you're doing is you're setting up outside, and this is the end of a chapter. At least I think it's the end of a chapter. I don't think this is necessary right at the end. I think have her say bye, have her before she goes outside mid door. She looks down at her sister's drawing. Spellpaige waits. So I don't know. I was like, I don't know if we need the setup right here. I almost feel like this should be the beginning of the next chapter, but you kind of do need some type of setup going outside. So kind of go back and forth on this. I like. I think it's because we get the buy, and now I just want to get to the end right here, but kind of go back and forth. Food for thought. But awesome. That's all that I got for you, my friend. I hope that helps out and that gives you some solid feedback. Zencast, once again, thank you so much for submitting. Absolutely a really, really good submission. Thank you so much. Definitely really, really fun. Oh man, I feel like that was definitely a really good one. Oh, okay, so that was definitely really fun. I feel like we were able to definitely get through that, and that was definitely a little fun submission. All right, all right. So, what did you guys think of it? I feel like that was definitely a fun little read, and I'm always love to see just how much creativity there is, and I always really appreciate, especially when we get revisions for previous stories. So really, really fun. All right, and let's see, I'm looking at our next ones. Hmm. All right, so let's. So we're gonna. So I was just looking at the submissions over here. So we got a couple. Let's. I'm gonna push in the next one, see just what we can accomplish. All right. So, by the way, once again, everyone, thank you for joining in. Thank you for all the comments so far. So, we're going to hop into our next story, which is a fan fiction by author Mybad. So, this looks like Toga Rehabilitation. Looks like this is I think it's My Hero Academia fan fiction. Um, but once again, I've never read My Hero. I've never seen My Hero Academia, so I won't be able to speak to the references. But we can definitely speak to like the character development and see if we can give any more feedback for them. So, and by the way, if you are hanging out here in the chat, and you want to come hang out with the writing community, you should come join us on the WriteNow Discord. This is our community tool of our way of connecting with everybody here in the chat and everybody in the WriteNow community. Whether you just want to drop memes, whether you want to do writing games, whether you want to share your work and get feedback from the other writers, the Discord is active and it's a great place. We'll talk about our writing events sometimes, we'll talk about writing tips, and we got so much more going on. So definitely make sure to come join us at the WriteNow community. The Discord link is down in the YouTube description. I will also drop it in the chat. Everyone, so definitely come join us in the WriteNow Discord. It's definitely a great way to come connect with the community. So love the WriteNow Discord. I would say of all the things that we've done, or all the things that I've like created with the community, the Discord was probably one of the, hands down, one of the best tools that that I put into place. It gives us such a great way to be able to kind of like talk with each other. So, all right, and we're gonna hop straight into the next one. All right, and let's go this. Perfect. All right, so we're going to go into this one. We're going to see just how we can help out Mybad and see just what we can accomplish. All right, we'll drop that down. Okay. Okay. So once again, My Hero Academia fan fiction. And here we go. This is, so it's called Toga Rehabilitation. My Hero Academia fan fiction by author Mybad. Chapter 2, Containment. Himiko stood there, waiting, outside the room of one of the most powerful people in Japan, in a suit Aizawa brought for her earlier that day. She's about to meet the head of the HPSC. Aizawa told her not to be worried, but she'd be lying if she said she wasn't sweating bullets. This woman can send her to Tartarus, half a kilometer below sea level, 5 kilometers away from any civilization where they keep that monster. All for one. Aizawa steps out of the room, sighing. So, good news, you're only here for formalities. Madame President has already decided to let you attend UA, however, it's only if you have constant monitoring from a hero. Himiko rubs her arm, trying to melt into the floor. That's fair. I probably have a longer sentence in jail than many other villains. Stop thinking of yourself like a villain. It'll be the easiest way to fall back, Aizawa says, softly putting his hands on her shoulders. If you genuinely want to be a hero, you need to believe you can be the one. Himiko nods softly as Aizawa stands up. She silently follows him through the doors. There's an oppressive silence that suffocates the room, predominantly from Madam President. Himiko looks up, straight into Madam President's eyes. Himiko feels the oppressiveness intensify tenfold. She probably has a quirk that creates an oppressive feeling, probably sight-based, like dry eyes with his erasure, but with the benefit of eye contact increasing its effectiveness. Himiko's brain is going a million miles a minute. If it's a great quirk for her job. If everyone just feels pressure around her, well, it'd feel like she was already at the top. Alternatively, it could just affect someone's feelings. I mean, I'm feeling anxious right now, but that might just be from the situation. Madam President finally speaks. Himiko Toga, I have accepted the proposition presented by Shoda Aizawa, Hisashi Yamada, Sekijiro Kan, and Nedzu. You will be allowed to attend UA under many restrictions. The first and most important will be this wristband. She presents a rubber-looking band about necklace size. This will be on your wrist at all times. Himiko looks at it. I hope it shrinks, because my wrists aren't close to that big. Himiko nods, not trusting her voice, and holds her arm out. Aizawa grabs the band and brings it over, holding it around Himiko's wrist. This will probably hurt a little. He shows the small teeth along the inside of the edge. These are to monitor several things about your quirk. If you ingested blood, if you transformed, if you have the intent to harm someone, etc. It shouldn't be possible for you to use your quirk with these on anyway, but those are backup. Aizawa gently shrinks the band down smaller and smaller until it's snug against Himiko's wrist. Himiko rubs her wrist around the band. It's annoying, that's for sure. Now, in exchange for my allowance of this happening, you have information about where the League of Villains is, Madam President says, staring down at Himiko. Himiko stops and looks up at her. Only if Jin gets similar treatment to me. Allowed to rehabilitate. He might not want it, but he could be a hero. Little girl, you're in no position to negotiate. I could take the chance at UA in an instant if you don't agree to share. Madam President leans forward. Then you don't get their location, and believe me, you'll want it. They're off training and getting stronger. At least that's what I was told when I got there. Himiko says, stepping forward only to be stopped by Aizawa. See, you could try and torture the information out of me, but there's not much you could do that would actually make me talk. If you want the information, you will treat Jin the same way you treat me. I don't give a shit about the others. They can rot in a jail cell for all I care. Madam President glares down at Himiko before returning to a neutral expression. We have people with quirks who can drag the information from you. Why are you so adverse to giving villains chances to rehabilitate? Himiko lets the question hang for a few moments. I get that not every villain can be rehabilitated, but there are countless villains out there that would love to be rehabilitated. Still, you just throw them in a mental coffin 3 kilometers off the coast of the country like they're less than human. Not everyone deserves redemption, Madam President says, motioning for a guard to get someone. Bullshit, Himiko snaps, throwing her hands up. Aizawa speaks up from behind Himiko. Himiko spins around on the spot. What? I understand your anger. However, this is not the time to be fighting the one in control. Aizawa kneels to be on Himiko's level. You'll have a better chance when you're in school. Not a much better chance, but a better chance. By that time, Jin might not be alive. And if you fight now, you won't get the chance to in the future. Guaranteed. Himiko stops, this time for a solid few seconds. Fine. She slumps and says the location. Madam President smirks in the most annoying way possible, in Himiko's opinion. Good. You can leave now. Himiko, frustrated, walks out after Aizawa mumbling. Corrupt assholes. You're not wrong, kid, Aizawa mumbles. The walk outside was quiet. Himiko had been there for all of 30 minutes, and she never wanted to go back as she stepped out of the building. Thankfully, she had something to distract her as Hisashi pulled up in his car. Hisashi sticks his head out of the window. Hey! Did it go well? As well as it could. Himiko opens the back door to see a white-haired toddler in the back. Wait, why is the kid from the rat? Aizawa cuts her off. We adopted her. He gives her a look that says, Don't mention Kaichisaki. I figure you two would like to meet properly, Hisashi says, looking at Himiko, given you two are going to be sisters. Hi, Eri says with a meek voice. Himiko slides in next to Eri. She remembers me from then. Hi, Eri. I'm sorry I couldn't help you back then. I wish I'd done something, but realistically, what could I do? Nothing, really. I'm glad she's safe. I like your horn. Eri perks up. Really? Yeah, it's cute. Himiko smiles. Thank you. Eri smiles back. I'm going to protect her until the day I die, Himiko declares to herself. End reading. All right. So I feel like you actually did a really good job of navigating the character journey in that chapter. Once again, like from not having seen My Hero Academia and understanding the lore as much, I actually got a very clear sense of the world, of some of the rules of the world in that exchange between Himiko and the president lady. So I got a good exchange of that. I like kind of Ozawa was like kind of is like he obviously works for the school, but he's like on her side, but he's trying to be neutral. I actually really liked that. I thought that was a really nice balance. So I felt like in this chapter, your character development was the strongest, and you did a good job of sticking to the world building elements of My Hero Academia. Now, of course, someone who doesn't know it, I feel like you stuck to it. I feel like I kind of started getting an understanding of quirks and kind of the way the system goes a little bit with redemption. And that kind of spoke to me. I felt like there were some good emotional connections, even though I'd never seen the show at all. So really, really great work. I think there's definitely some opportunities for kind of like dialogue and action tags. And I think there's times where you could probably like clean it up a little bit. And we kind of want to make some of the bits a little clearer. But overall, I feel like this was a really fun little fan fiction chapter. So let me get into it. So as I was saying, I think the strengths is definitely character development and world building was good. I think dialogue, a little bit of the style could be improved on, but I think those are definitely the biggest things that could be addressed in it. I didn't highlight as much because I was kind of getting into the story. I'm like, okay, this makes me want to watch My Hero Academia. So I think you did a really great job on that part. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of an interesting world. This seems fun. I know My Hero is a really popular anime. It's a very, very popular anime of all the ones out there. Let's see. So even as I go through it, I think you do this. And once again, this is chapter 2. So we've already set up the characters in chapter 1. Let's see. And I think I recall we might have read, I think we read chapter 1 of this a little while back, I believe. Yeah, I believe. I'm pretty sure we did chapter 1 of this a while back. I think you did a good job of setting up kind of like the tension with this. I thought this was a good like little like world building, such kind of ironic moment. Yeah, and I mean, I think like with the dialogue, so it's like, this is very straightforward. Aizawa steps out of the room sighing. So, good news, you're only here for formalities. Madame President has already decided to let you attend UA. However, it's only if you have constant monitoring from a hero. Now, like, this is good, and I think with your dialogue, I think the biggest thing you could focus on is like, I kind of want a little bit more action tags, kind of accompanying the dialogue. And it's like, how could we shorten this and still get to the point? Aizawa steps out of the room sighing. So like we don't need good news. You're only here for good news. This is only a formality. I was like, actually, I don't even know if we need that. Good news, Madam President. I would go here. Madam President has already decided to let you attend UA. Yeah, and I think this is how I would break it up. So I think I would do this. I kind of want some more action tags. He glanced over his shoulder nervously, dropping his voice to a whisper. Right. So I think we could do that. Only if you have constant monitoring from a hero. So I think something like that, I think I would recommend like find more opportunities to try to split your dialogue up or shorten it. And I think we still get the same bit across. So Alice steps out of the room sighing. Good news. Madam President has already decided to let you attend UA. We don't need. but only if you have constant monitoring. And then we kind of get a little character development. So I kind of want more bits of like this kind of element where we're kind of continuing to push our character development. So that way the dialogue's just not as wordy. I do like what Aizawa says. This villain bit is a really nice start to this chapter because this creates a nice little arc for this chapter of like, hey, don't think of yourself like a villain. That's actually really, really good. And this kind of pulled me into it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. She's a villain, but she's trying to be rehabilitated. That's kind of cool. It's a cool character arc. And then we go into the room, and of course, Madame Preston is kind of a harsh, harsh lady. You can feel the oppressiveness. That is good. And then this kind of goes into quirks a little bit. I mean, anybody who's a My Hero Academia fan will understand how quirks work. But as somebody who doesn't, okay, I was like, okay, so they're kind of like they're like abilities or like superpower. They're like abilities. I don't, I think, but I think going into this, like, unless we know what the quirk is, I don't know if it's necessary to explain it unless this is what the quirk is. Because right now, this is just kind of her guessing what the quirk is. I think if dry eyes with this, if her quirk is sight based, if the quirk is sight based, I think I would just make this more direct. Because right now, if it's a guess, then it's like, okay, well, if it's a guess, then who cares? She could be wrong. I would just make this more direct. But this is interesting, right? So is she affecting her feelings? I think this is the most important part of the paragraph. And I kind of want to get this. She probably has a quirk that creates oppressiveness. She probably has a quirk that shifts somebody's feelings, right? Because this is really where we want to get to because this is interesting. Oh, can I trust my feelings if a quirk is being used against me? That is the biggest takeaway. This is good. You're right. And it's like, even then when we look at dialogue, Himiko Toga, I've accepted the proposition presented by Shota. Yep, yep. You'll be allowed to attend UA under many restrictions. So it's like, we don't even need this first one. So like, let us see what happens with the action, with the dialogue. She presents a rubber looking band about a necklace size. This will be on your wrist at all times, right? So then she presents a rubber, and I think then we can let the action speak for itself. This cleans up the dialogue just a little bit, and then we can focus on the action. And then so present tense, so I, but we're using she. So we're in third person, so we wouldn't use I. Himiko looks at it, hoping it shrinks. Himiko nods, not trusting, and holds her arm out. Yeah, so you switch into first person here, even though we should be in third. So just be aware of your tense. Himiko looks at it, hoping it shrinks because her wrists aren't that big. So just be aware of that. Aizawa grabs the band and brings it over, holding it around Himiko's wrist. Yeah, and then we kind of have Aizawa explaining what's going on here. I think his action's pretty good, but I think you can cut down on the dialogue wordiness a little bit. right? And then you could go things like this. Himiko rubs her wrist around the band, irritated. So you could go something like that, or you could add additional actions to make to focus on Himiko itself. I like that we get this back and forth with her wanting Jin in, and Himiko makes this like huge argument, this like huge display of like how important it is that Jin get the rehabilitation as well. And I think this creates very good tension. This creates great tension and great character development, not just for Himiko, but we also get the great character development with Madam President, how she responds, and with Aizawa, how he tries to support. That was a really great strategy, and I think this is really fun. It actually makes me want to learn more about who Jin is. Why does she think Jin should be rehabilitated as well? So, and it also acts as a foreshadow for Jin's character. So that was really smart. And it's like this dialogue here, it's like once again, like your dialogue blocks are a little too wordy, but like what you're saying is really good. I love her personality. I kind of like, so you have it broken up here. This is perfect. So that is perfect right here. I think I would break this up again of have her do something like slam her fist into her like her palm. Like, if you want the information, you'll have to torture it out of me. Like something to that, right? You can tell she kind of has this like spunk in this attitude, which is kind of fun and attracts me to her character. And then I think this is great that Aizawa really tries to calm her down. I think that works is really good at character development. The ending is funny. Corrupt assholes. And then we kind of get to the car moment. And we're introduced to another new character. What was that, like a toddler, a white haired toddler? If they're a toddler, can they speak? I think that was kind of like the only thing in mind. Because you mentioned a toddler, but I'm like, can the toddler speak? Or is this another character? Hizashi, I think, is the dad. Yeah, so I mean, I think that the only thing I'd question was be like, if Ari is a toddler, can she really speak? I might age Ari up just a little bit. I think the bonding between Amiko and Ari is actually really cute. And I think you set up that she's going to kind of be a protector for Ari, which is really smart. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a good start. Yeah. She's not actually. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. That makes way more sense. Okay, then if she's not a toddler, then I would just change that. Change that in here. So that way we don't get confused. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so then if she doesn't know her age, I would then just say Himiko opens the back door to see a young white haired girl in the back. I would just do that. Otherwise, if you say toddler, then the reader might say like, "Oh, why is she talking to a toddler?" So, but that makes sense. You're more just trying to say that Himiko's uncertain about her age. And then this is another moment where you kind of slip into the present tense. Um, so I think this is just something you want to be aware of, right? So we've been doing third person, and then we switch into first person. So, I mean, unless you're going to make the whole story in first person, I would advise against this. Now, what you want to do for this is like I would switch into interiority. Right. So then I would do things like that. Granted, you could do a thing where all your interiority is first person. Um, I couldn't help you, and that could be a style. You'd have to do that. You'd have to do that. Would be the only time you do italics throughout it, so that way the reader doesn't get confused. I'm sorry I couldn't help you back then. You could do that as well, like maybe do first person as interiority the whole time, but you just have to make sure if you do that style, just be consistent. That only first person is only italics the entire story. So I think that would be a way. Once again, it's all like choice of style, and it just comes down to how do we make it as easy as possible to be a reader. So awesome. But really great work, my friend. Thank you so much for submitting. Once again, I like your stories definitely making me want to read My Hero or watch My Hero Academia now. So really great work. I'm like, that seems like an interesting show. But yeah, I always love doing fan fiction. It makes it even better when I'm familiar with the universe. But I think what you're doing really well is you're making it a little bit more. This chapter felt a little bit more accessible for non My Hero Academia fans. So really great work, Mybad. And thank you so much for sharing. Much appreciated. Awesome. Excellent. So I feel like that was a really great. That was a really great story. Definitely makes me want to watch My Hero Academia. But I feel like we've been on such a journey today. I feel like we've been on such a journey. We've gone through such a variety of different types of stories, from sci-fi, dark fantasy, dark comedy, another fantasy, fan fiction. I was like, there's something else in between. So we've definitely done some really great story types, and I am so appreciative. I am so happy of all the stories that have been submitted. I just want to do this. I just want to say this. I created the Story and Critique Show as a way to be able to give feedback, to be able to give free feedback to writers, because I know the writing process is expensive. But we can't publish our stuff until we get feedback, because when we publish stuff without getting feedback, then readers get upset when things don't make sense, and there's grammar mistakes and all the things in between. So the Story and Critique Show was one of my original specialty streams that I started, and it continues to be one of our popular streams on the WriteNow channel. As I look into 2026, I'm going to be thinking, what are ways that I can continue to improve the Story and Critique Show to be doing more of what you guys like, and just to be able to continue to keep improving it and going in the right direction. Earlier, I had started a poll, and I asked, what do you like the most about the Story and Critique stream? Let's see, and we will end the poll now. And it looks like I asked you guys what you like the most, and 39% said hearing critiques on other stories, 31% said getting feedback on your story, and then 50% was split on hanging out with other writers and learning writing skills from myself. So I think that's definitely a pretty healthy mix. I'm just really appreciative. I want to just say thank you to everyone who submitted stories on the critique stream up to this point. Thank you for submitting your stories. The critique show wouldn't be possible without your stories, and part of what makes these critique streams fun, outside of the readings, is being able to come and hang out with all of you, being able to hear your thoughts, hear your feedback on certain stories. Some stories you like, some you don't, and that's all right. Because our goal is to like every story. Our goal is, how do we help other writers and learn that that regardless of genre or format, what doesn't change is that your story still has to have great characters, your story still has to have a believable world, it still has to have a plot that makes an emotional connection with your intended reader, your intended audience, or something else in between. So I'm very happy, and I was like, I know we're probably well over 200 stories. I was like, I'll have to do that count at some point. 156. So how many stories do we have? So let's see, 155 plus 95, so 255. So we're at about 250 actually. Wow. Oh, Courtney, did you create a? Oh, I think Courtney created a graph. That's so super cool. All right, Courtney, we'll throw it on screen actually. All right, so I pulled up. So we have the critique stream. A nice section from this week. I don't think so, Owario. I think I've gotten through all the stories from November, and I actually think I'm pretty caught up. I think there's only a couple left from December. I was like, I kind of have to look at these submissions. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I caught up. I don't think I have any from November. I think I just have a few left from December. But yeah, I kind of want to show you this because I think Courtney, you were able to put together a graph. I was just really curious. So of all the let's see, I'll drop this here. Of all the stories that have been submitted over the last 2 years, Courtney, once again, thank you for putting this up. This is actually really, really cool. So of all the stories that have been submitted over the last 2 years, Courtney threw a graph together. So it looks like this graph is, so this is from all this, this was the first 100 or so, 150 stories from 2024. Let's say 2024, we did about 155 stories. Let's see. And then it looks like, so we have 19% fantasy. Yeah, so I mean, obviously the majority is fantasy. We got 7.8% sci-fi. Yep, and then 3.5% is thriller. Well, technically, we got thriller script and then thriller horror. So thriller is probably about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so about 12%. Sci-fi thriller is 8, sci-fi fun, so 8, 9. So actually, I think fantasy, well, and then we got dark fantasy, dark gothic. So fantasy is probably about 25%. Thriller horror is probably about 10, it's probably about 12%. And then sci-fi is probably about 10%. It's actually, I mean, I'm not surprised. And then we get the mixture of the other ones, paranormal, memoir, folktale. No, it's actually really interesting. And that was from 2024. And then in 2025, we did about 100. And obviously, my schedule was busier this last year with more focuses on writing events. So I'm not surprised. Let's see. And then out of the 100, it looks like we did about, fantasy was about, we started getting more fan fiction. And it looks like fantasy was about the same. Fantasy was about 20%, give or take. Let's see, military, sci-fi. We kind of started getting less horror and thriller, it looks like, and we started getting more. We started getting more subgenres. So I'm seeing more romance. I'm seeing more slice of life, more young adult. So it seems like in 2025 we got a higher mix of subgenres and mixed genres, where 2024 the major genres are a little bit more clearly defined. Oh, it's actually really interesting. Very, very interesting. And once again, this is all Courtney, guys. Thank Courtney for putting this together. This is absolutely incredible. I appreciate you so much, my friend. I know, thriller script, killer grandma. The thriller script. What was that? Summer's Rain was like the one screenplay that we went through the majority of it. So yeah, once again, Courtney, thank you so much. I just want to do this. Give a huge shout out to everyone who submitted. Let me make sure I didn't miss comments. I just saw a comment, Mouse. This is a really good question. So, Koff, have you thought of teaming up on the critique show so you can do more stories, have someone share the reading duty? I've considered it. I've considered it so far. I kind of go back and forth on that. On like, okay, do I keep the critique stream as so like the critique stream is like the one solo stream that I always have that you guys can always expect to come hang out with me. I've thought about like, okay, do I invite guest authors and be like, okay, well, this critique stream is like this guest, and we'll like read the stories and critique together. Do I partner up with somebody? I've considered that before. I think originally, because I was doing the podcast, I was like, okay, I'll keep the critique stream for me, and then I'll have the podcast with guests. But and I mean, I'll be returning with the podcast in 2025. I had to take a break from it to focus on all the writing events. But we'll see. I mean, that might that might be something I do in the future. I've considered that. Like maybe I have like guest authors join me for specific critique streams. I mean, the more people we get, the more different types of critiques we get. And I mean, like I'm not the I know there's others. I would have to be invite guests who are able to give live critiques in the moment based on live readings, and not everyone's like that. I know, Courtney. Speaking of Summer's Reign, I know we finally got less horror at the end of Summer's Reign. I know Obsidian Void is such a cool story. Obsidian Void is so cool. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what 2026 brings us. We'll see if we kind of stick. It seems like 2024 was about the main genres. 2025 was a bit more diversity with subgenres. But yeah, we'll see what 2026 looks like, and if I end up if what types of adjustments we'll make to the critique stream. And yeah, so I mean, I've had so much fun with all y'all, and I just want to give a big round of applause to all of you. All of you guys who show up, you come and hang out in the critique streams with us. Those of you guys who give comments, like that is incredible. I love that you guys are able to kind of share your thoughts, share your feedback in a way that's like kind and clear, because we're all trying to help each other, right? We're all trying to get to that stage of having our stuff published in whatever way, shape, or form. So I love the Story and Critique show. We're going to continue it with it. Like I said, this is the last one of 2025, since 2 weekends from now will be the WriteNow A Thon. So we'll be back with the critique show in January. I'll let you know once I set a date for it. I'm kind of going to let myself get through the holiday season, and then I'll figure out what my 2026 calendar looks like. So yeah, that's what I got. Everybody, if you're wanting more feedback on your stories, but you're wanting feedback in a closed session, tomorrow is our YouTube channel members critique group. Critique Right Now. This is a closed session for channel members only, where you can share an excerpt of your story with a small group of writers and get feedback from different writers. If you have an excerpt that you need feedback on, you should sign up right now. All you have to do is click the join button down below the YouTube description. Our Critique Right Now is a really cool group. We've been doing it for about a year now, and usually writers walk away getting some really good feedback from it. So I highly recommend. It's going to be tomorrow, early afternoon. I want to say, what's that? I think I have it set for 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. I think it's 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. I have to see what time I set it for. Courtney, that's awesome. Courtney gifted 5 memberships, so you guys should hop on it. Come join us for Critique Right Now tomorrow. Come join us for Critique Right Now. Courtney, you're incredible. Courtney, you're a bomb.com, my friend. Y'all guys were just gifted some memberships, so you should come join us for Critique Right Now. If you're a channel member, come join us. We are... Yeah, so we'll be opening it up. It's for channel members. For those of you who want feedback on your story, all you got to do is show up. So usually, what we'll do is right now it's for the $10 membership. Depending on how many writers we get, so we'll prioritize the critique right now members first. And then if we have time, depending on how many critique members show up, we'll open it up to our other channel members. Tomorrow is kind of like a holiday thanks. This is just the one I want to do a holiday thank you to everybody who's supporting the Right Now community. Everything that you do kind of just goes, all the money that you guys donate or support goes back into all the subscriptions. Like there's so many subscriptions for content creation, from like the live stream studio, creating the videos, creating the photos, doing the advertising, and all the music. There's like subscriptions for everything. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I appreciate all y'all. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm very, very grateful. And this will be awesome. So I hope to see all you guys tomorrow for Critique Right Now. If you want the details, I'll be posting the details in the on the channel membership, on the post you'll see on the community post on the YouTube channel. We're also in our Discord. So you'll be able to come join us in the YouTube channel membership Discord. That should be super cool. And then Monday, for those of you who are ready and eager for the WriteNow A Thon, Monday is going to be our update and announcement. And we'll be talking about the WriteNow A Thon on Monday's live stream. So come join us. I need to set a time. I need to figure out what time to set Monday's stream for. But Monday is going to be the update and the announcement for the WriteNow A Thon. This is going to be an all-weekend, non-stop stream with over 50 authors. We'll be doing critiques, games, conversations, workshops, sprints, and everything else in between as we come together with the writing community and we celebrate writing. We celebrate the reason that we're here, the thing that we love. We'll look back on our wins from 2025. We'll look back on our losses. We'll look forward to what does 2026 look like and all the conversations in between. This is going to be the last weekend of December. Starting, we'll be kicking off on the 20, We'll be kicking off with a Discord party on Friday, December 26th. We'll be kicking off with a Discord holiday party on Friday, December 26th. And then we will be queuing the live stream officially on Saturday, December 27th. So we'll be talking about all that and more on Monday's live stream. We'll talk about the details and it's going to be exciting. And if you haven't signed up to host an activity, tomorrow is the last day for signups. We have a wait list, so I would suggest sign up now if you're wanting to be involved. But it'll be super cool. All right, my friends. Well, that is all that I got for you. Thank you all for joining. It's been a great critique stream today. And most importantly, if you enjoyed the stream, tap that like button on your way out. Help us show the algorithm that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends. It's been great. It's been phenomenal. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers, and we'll see our story and critique stream in 2026. Stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write
now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that right?
Words are wind, but stories